Hello, everybody, and welcome to what might be one of the final shows ever on this network or any other. When will they shut us down? I have no idea. It could be 5 minutes, 5 years, right now, never. But the government continues to attack any form of dissent, continues to privilege Christianity and target opposition to it, continues to violate the First Amendment rights of its citizens. Free speech is dying. They are violating the law to get comedians canceled for being critical of them. Representative Higgins from Louisiana sent a letter to YouTube, Meta, TikTok, et cetera, and other social media platforms, specifically wishing them well and hoping that God was with them, and declaring that they needed to remove content that in any way celebrated Charlie Kirk's death and ban anyone who posted it. I'm not celebrating Kirk's death, but that's a ridiculous bridge too far in my book. Meanwhile, they are legitimately trying to label all trans allies as nihilistic, violent, extremist, domestic terrorists. So, welcome. Basically, everybody I know who isn't shitty is now going to be possibly a violent extremist or labeled that way. Now, it may seem to many of you that we should only talk about this. And some of you are probably out there saying, God, would you stop talking about this? I get it. The truth is that we produce tons of shows on this network, and many or all of them will continue to address the problems of this current fascist regime for as long as we're allowed to. But part of their strategy is to give you so much to focus on that you cannot focus on any of it. There's so many fires, you don't even know how to triage to figure out what to put out. So I'm going to try to keep the Sunday show about what the Sunday show was about. And that is religion, religious claims, gods, the supernatural, skepticism, humanism, science, as much as possible, to try to offer some semblance of normalcy and maybe even a little respite from the world outside that seems to be burning down around us. So if you're a theist, if you believe in a god, any type of god, today, I don't even care how absurd I would normally consider it, any type of god at all, call us, let us know. If you're an advocate for the supernatural, I don't know, maybe almost anything supernatural. Today's a good day. Let's have some fun with it. This is your chance to call in and make your case. We want to know what you believe, why you believe it, and why you think we should agree with you. If you're a science denier or have questions about science or concerns about the reliability of science, Dr. Aaron Adair and I did a show last Wednesday talking about how to maybe rehabilitate science in the view in the public's perspective. But this is one of the best times to call in, as my co-host today loves to educate people on those topics and is exceptional at it. So welcome, Erika. How the hell are you, all things considered?
Yeah, it was like we were saying in the back rooms before this. It's like, I feel like that's implicit these days when you're like, how are you doing? It's like, in parentheses, in the fall of the Union, or like as the world is crumbling down around us, dread constantly leaking from absolutely every avenue that you can get news from anybody, personal or professional. I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay, all things considered. I suppose, I've got my health, my family's safe. I've got my YouTube career for now, as we continue to say, because I don't know. I mean, there's been buzz with those of us who are in science communication as well, right? That as this regime, I suppose you would call it, continues to crack down on opposing views, where does that leave us with science? And we tend to think of science as this area that's immune, but I think that history speaks for itself on that. It isn't. In fact, oftentimes universities and university systems are the first to go. And we're already seeing the return of McCarthyism in a lot of universities nationwide, as people are being encouraged to report professors who sort of teach anything that runs contra to the explicit aims of the current administration, which is horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying. It's just, it makes your blood run cold. And yet here we are. We're here there. And so, I'm doing okay. I'm looking forward to this show. As you said, hopefully this can act maybe as a bit of a respite for people, I suppose, depending on the types of calls we get. But please, if you're interested in anything supernatural, call in and tell us about Bigfoot. Call in and tell us about your near-death experience or your friend's near-death experience or aliens. Please, God, call in about creationism. I'm begging you. I can talk about that forever, and I would love to talk about just about anything else other than the state of things, because, God knows we're getting enough of that from absolutely every avenue. How are you, Matt? How are you doing?
Well, I was thinking about this. Last Sunday, I had to leave the show early. Huge thanks to Seth for filling in. I already talked about the health-related stuff. I ended up in the emergency room and then admitted to the hospital and was there for about 18 hours or so. And I probably did it to myself. It may have been a combination of blood pressure and caffeine and stress and everything else. Who knows? But I'm doing pretty good now. And it's funny because when you're in the hospital, they'll come over, you're laying in the bed, you're kind of half out of it. And they're like, hey, how you doing? And I can't stop being pedantic debate boy. And so I look at them and go, terrible. How are you? Because it's a bit of fun. But, we're talking about, I have a physician friend who sent me a link or posted a link to this. There were talks about studies on violence, and they were trying to categorize right or left, etc. And the current government removed studies from government websites that disagreed with their narrative, irrespective of how good the studies actually were or what they showed, and instead are promoting other things. But this is a new list. I want to run through this list real quick, because even though you're not a physician, this is wild. The CDC, in addition to all the other problems because of RFK Jr. and anti-vaccine positions and, blah, blah, blah. This is a list of censored CDC websites where content has just been removed. And I'm just going to go through the list of titles. The first one is about Shigella among gay, bisexual, and other men who have sex with men. The next study is about STIs and gay men. The next one is Alzheimer's Communication Guide. Then the CDC's core commitment to health equity. Then the health equity in cancer prevention, health equity in drug overdose, health equity for people with disabilities, health equity in injury and violence prevention, laboratory identification of parasites of public health concerns, malaria. Then there's guidelines for comprehensive sex education, 3rd edition. There is the lesbian bisexual women NPIN study, access denied. NPIN understanding asexuality, NPN understanding bisexuality, prevention approaches to viral hepatitis in gay and bisexual men. This, and there's more. There's a common thread here. The overwhelming majority of stuff that the CDC is censoring in this particular batch off the site is about public health knowledge and data related specifically to LGBTQ people. And a friend of mine's a physician and posted this, and it's like, I remember when 9/11 happened, and the conspiracy theories crept up. And I remember having conversations with people saying, I don't trust the official story. I don't trust the government story. That's the government story. That's the government story. And I would keep reminding them, nobody's asking you to trust the government. What's happening here is we're not saying, here's this study, and you should trust it because it comes from the government. Because in reality, the study doesn't come from the government. The study comes from research scientists and people, some of whom are have grants and other things. Some of them are contributed to by the government. But it's not the government doing it. It's real people. And so we're not saying trust the study because it comes from the government. We're saying trust the study because of the data and the methodology are reliable. And the government should only be posting those things where the data and the methodology are reliable. And so you're not trusting it because it comes from the government. The government's trusting because it comes from reputable science organizations. As it stands now, it's not like they're taking things down and replacing them with improved versions. It's not like we got some better science. It's not like we found out, oh, this study on Hep C in lesbians is wrong. It's no. We want to scrub everything related to this. Just like they were so eager to scrub the mere word gay that it knocked the Enola Gay out of their history books. There's terrifying censorship going on.
It's especially scary. Well, I mean, this is a big "I told you so" moment for those of us who were raising the alarm about this months and years ago. That eventually it was going to come to this. It's the classic. First they came for trans people. First they came for so and so, and it's like it always ends up eating its way through the populace and through every sort of disenfranchised group out there. And that's going to continue to happen. We said the same thing when Roe fell, and it was like, okay, well,
Yep.
Obergefell is going to be next, or birth control is going to be next, and it's like, okay, well, now we're seeing the scrubbing of the mention of gay folks and things related to them from the internet, and we're also seeing a push towards classifying the pill and IUDs as abortifacients, which would, of course, throw all birth control, all of it, into the realm of threat, right? Which is scary stuff, to say the least. I mean, that's downplaying it. But like, I just want to remind everybody that caught up in all of this is also studies that have absolutely nothing to do with anything that we would consider to be whatever, like identity politics or like related to sociocultural issues.
Yep.
And this is not just limited to what Matt just listed, right? We're seeing an absolute full frontal assault on the NSF and the NIH and the CDC and the EPA and NASA and every major scientific organization. And you can ask the question, like why, right? Like, why is biomedicine falling under the same umbrella? Like, I'm not saying obviously, none of it should be under the umbrella, but it seems disconnected. And I would just like to remind everybody that in every single authoritarian regime that has ever come and go, it isn't just the sociocultural stuff, it's the sciences too. And that's because an educated populace tends to be a progressive populace, which is I think about as clear a motivation as one could possibly. Like, I mean, they're literally broadcasting it to us. They're telling us what they're going to do and why they're doing it, and you still have people with their heads in the sand. It's absolutely, again, blood boiling, and it's just infuriating and scary.
So, trust. I am as terrified as I've ever been in my entire life about the state of the entire world, my life, the life of the lives of the people that I love, our rights and freedoms, etc. But we have lines open. There were a couple callers. One of them called in to say that if everyone were Christian, society would be better. And I'm like, you could probably say that about any number of things. Like, if we all agreed on X, whether it's right or wrong, society might feel better to some people, but would it actually be better? I think, let's dig in on the nuts and bolts. But there's a theist that's lining up right now. Once we're done with the call screen, we'll get that on there. Seriously, if like, I'm not just, I want people to call in and say, hey, here's why I believe in God. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I want people to call in and say, here's why I think you should believe in God, Erika. Here's why I think you should believe in God, Matt. Here's the good reason. Here's the evidence. Here's the way we can be confident that there is something, and then say the something, and have those conversations and make them good. Because I got email this week from someone who sent me an email to call me a militant atheist, and then asked me in that same email questions, the very basic questions of, why aren't you convinced? What do you ground? And I'm just like, I do for 20 years now produce just tons of content, and I am live on this network over and over taking calls. I do debates. You can book a debate. You can pay me for a debate. It's my job, but there are other ways to interact, for free. And I still get emails from people. And despite the fact that I have no clue who this person is, I decided to respond to them to say, I'm not aware of what militant atheism is. I don't think there are any militant atheists. And then I explained to some extent my positions, and that, no, I don't think Christianity is a force for good. I can't, can you name anything that is both true and good, that is necessarily contingent on the truth of the religion that you're a part of. Because when you say, oh, well, Christianity makes community stronger, it sure can, as long as everybody there is in agreement. It makes it stronger, not necessarily better, but any number of things can make a community stronger. A barbecue can make our community stronger. As a matter of fact, I'd argue that health benefits aside, depending on who brings what food, a barbecue does more for the community than Christianity or Christians have on behalf of something that's strongly tied to Christianity. Now, this is not just about Christianity. I'm up for discussing all the various gods. I'm not convinced any of them are necessary for anything good or true. And if I'm wrong, show me. Because if it turns out that there's something good and true that necessarily is tied to the truth of a particular religion, I don't know how I could come up with any sort of justification to not accept that. Once you're, I don't like, my beliefs aren't a choice. As soon as you make the case to say, yes, in fact, moral perfection is only attainable under this particular model, we're going to have a heck of a time discussing it, because I don't know what moral perfection is. I don't know how you know what moral perfection is, but at least there's a discussion there. We've got calls lining up right now. Erika, if you're ready, I can put our first caller through, but I want to make sure I didn't stomp all over a comment.
No, please. I'm ready for our calls. I love getting all sorts of different types of calls. I can tell you why I think the way I think, right? I know Matt and I are both united in that if there's support for something, especially from an empirical place, we want to know about it. Like if you've got some kind of support, like actual support for the thing it is that you believe, that you think we would be skeptical on, whether it's God or aliens or miracles or whatever, like call in and let's have a discussion about it. This show is not meant to be like you show up and we do blood sports. It's meant to be a conversation, and I certainly hope that the people who call in feel that they can present their case. So I'm hoping we get some calls like that today. But yeah, I'm ready to go to the first caller, who I don't know. Let me pull up Call In Studio and see if they match our
I got it ready. Janet's calling from Kansas. Janet's pronouns are she, her, and Janet says she believes there's a thinking agent outside of space-time that created everything. Hey, Janet, how are you?
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Really bad, but as good as can be expected. Thank you.
Well, I totally understand that. And I have to be totally honest with you. I'm looking at my notes while we talk.
Okay.
So if I pause, that's because I'm actually trying to look at my notes. The sentence that the call screener gave you, that I believe there's a thinking agent outside of space-time that created and sustains everything. I actually heard you say that. I listened to you a lot. And I heard you talking one day, and I heard that from you. So I do want to be honest and say I did not come up with that on my own.
You have never heard me say that I believe there's a thinking agent outside of space-time.
No. Okay, let me rephrase that. You were talking about when atheists come on and they bring poor arguments a lot of the time.
You mean
when theists come on.
Yeah. Okay.
So sorry, when theists come on. I've got a little bit of a migraine, so that's why I've got my notes out. But you were talking about what was a decent argument to start with. So no, I apologize. You did not say that was your belief. You were talking about the lack of ability for Christians to plainly state what they believe. And I really thought that was very wise of you when you said, this is a decent starting point.
Cool.
And you are not saying you believed it.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I want to make sure we get Erika in here. I really, you've done a good job. You didn't say God. We don't have to dig in on another definition. You think that there is a thinking agent outside of space-time that created and sustains everything. I'd love to know why.
I do think that.
But I'd love to know why. But my first and possibly only question is, how do you have access to understand anything beyond space-time to even determine that beyond space-time is a cogent concept, as in something that is real and accessible?
Well, to tell you the truth, most of my beliefs, like a lot of us theists or Christians, our beliefs are rooted in what we were indoctrinated with.
Okay. Is that a path to truth?
That is, from the time I was in church when I was 2 weeks old. It's not within me at this point. I don't know how to make this not sound bad, but I have not been unconvinced that some of the things that I was taught to believe are not true. Okay? So I was raised all my life, believed all this all my life. I have definitely deconstructed a lot of beliefs, but my belief that there is something out there has not been deconstructed by any of the arguments that I have heard. I listen to a lot of atheist points, and I think there's been a lot of good points made. So it's hard for me to answer. I mean, of course, I have no proof as in evidence or data. That's none that I have found. I just haven't had any proof that has led me away from it. Now, I have heard some great arguments. I have heard you speak about you took your religion so seriously when you were a Christian that as you read the Bible and you saw more holes or you saw more inconsistencies, that you started to go, wait, something's not right here. And I can agree with that. I have been going through a lot of that over the past few years. And I love that you said it was because you were so serious about it, because I don't think Christians are serious about it at all, or we would not see what we're seeing. I do not think the majority of Christians that I interact with take it seriously.
Do you recognize?
So I really.
Do you recognize that what you're doing is completely shifting the burden of proof? You're saying, I became convinced of this, and I'm waiting for someone to prove me wrong before I can give it up, instead of what I would say is the correct skeptic position, recognizing that you don't have good reason to believe that it's correct.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with that.
Okay. And you also mentioned that it was probably due to indoctrination. Indoctrination's not only not a path to truth, it's kind of a recognized method of ignoring the truth in order to get people to believe and commit to something anyway. Like, for example, if you said, I believe white people are better than black people because I was indoctrinated to do so, none of us, including you, I guarantee you're a nice person, everything, you wouldn't think like that. So why do you use that same flawed reasoning to stick with Christianity or theism or whatever else?
That's a very excellent question.
I've done this once or twice, but I appreciate that you're, I love that. I'm going to take a step back because I know that I can be overwhelming. I also want to hear what Erika has to say about all this, but like, we're asking each other the questions that I struggled with and found, like, for example, I can't force myself to believe, and I can't pretend to believe. And once I recognize that there isn't sufficient evidence, my understanding of what should be required before I can say I believe something means that I cannot keep believing something once there's been either evidence to the contrary that is sufficient to undo it, or a demonstration that I didn't have good reason in the first place. Like, when I found my way out of Christianity, I still believed that murder was wrong. But while I was in, my view was murder is wrong because it's against God. It's against God's command. And so if I don't have the God, I need to figure out, is murder even wrong and why? And taking that kind of inventory is a lot of work that some people don't want to do. If you're sitting here, and I appreciate the fact that you're calling, Janet, and if you're saying, hey, I believe there's this thinking agent outside of space and time. And right off the bat, the second we say, how do you even know there is an outside space and time? And what access do you have to investigate it? You rightfully shrugged and said, well, it's kind of what I was indoctrinated into, and nobody's convinced me out of it yet. And that is, I'm going to stop in just a second, I promise. That is a protective mechanism that is built into religious systems by saying, you should believe this until somebody proves you're wrong. And skepticism says the exact opposite, which is you should not believe this until it's proven right.
Right. That's interesting. I'm going to have to, I will go back and re-listen to this so that I can really think about those points that you made, because I'm not going to be able to necessarily answer them right now. As I'm sure you understand, it takes a lot of digging into these questions that you're asking other people, or that people on the line ask me, and I have to really go away and sit with them and really think about them, because I had not thought about that. What you just said, I had not thought about that. I don't disagree with it at all.
I think your willingness to consider it, though, really speaks to your character, right? Like, you called in to have this conversation, and you're taking what Matt said. I mean, nobody, obviously, calling into a call-in show it's a stressful thing to do, and it's hard to come up with responses on the dot. But I mean, the fact that you called in and you're looking for things to consider, I think is a really great sign. I mean, I know Matt would be willing to have this conversation after you've given it some thought again. I wish I had more to add. For me, right, I come from a methodological naturalistic perspective, because I'm a scientist, and science is sort of my bread and butter. And, in science, we tend to work on a criterion of falsifiability, right? But at the same time, we don't believe everything until it's falsified. Ideas also have to be put forward that we have good reason to suspect they are true, and then we throw everything in the kitchen sink at that idea to see whether or not it can stand up to scrutiny. So to me, you haven't disproved something nebulous is not a good reason to believe it unless there is some support for believing it in the first place, right? It's sort of like a Russell's teapot thing, right? Like, I can't really speak to the existence of an orbiting teapot, but at the same time, I have no reason to believe that there is one currently in orbit around the sun. So I think you have to provide some reason to believe something before we can have a discussion about why you maybe shouldn't believe it. But, Matt, you and Matt already discussed that. I'm afraid I don't have much more to add.
Well, I do have a question for you, Erika. That is a science question.
Sure.
It was on my list of things to ask. I have a list of things to ask Forrest, but I was excited to see that you were on here, because I have heard that you are very, very intelligent. So,
oh, please! You've been talking to my mom, haven't you?
I watched a video that said that there was proof that an asteroid hit Earth in 1991. I believe is when they found the proof. I'm having a migraine, so I'm having a hard time seeing my notes. It was off the Yucatan Peninsula.
Yeah.
And so what they said was that was what killed off the dinosaurs. That's what this documentary said.
Yeah.
Now, my question would be, if there was an asteroid that was so big to kill off the dinosaurs, why didn't it kill off everything?
That is such a great question. That's actually the question that first kind of came to the mind of the Alvarez duo when they proposed the impactor hypothesis in the late 1980s, early 1990s.
Yeah.
How did anything survive at all? And I mean, this will this shocks many people to hear, but of the 5 biggest mass extinctions that have ever faced life on this planet, the one that killed off the dinosaurs, it's not even in the top 3, if memory serves. I believe it goes the Permian, then the Ordovician, and the Devonian. I think the Devonian and the one that killed off the dinosaurs are sort of head to head in percent of species that they've actually killed. But okay, so let's break down the question. Like, first of all, how do we know that an asteroid was responsible, at least in part, for killing off the dinosaurs? We know that because we find a layer of iridium which, well, first of all, we have a big crater, which tells us a lot. But second of all, we know that that crater was caused by something slamming into the Earth instead of something erupting out of the Earth, like a massive event of volcanism, because we find a layer of iridium, which is an element that is found globally, a very fine layer. And iridium sort of caps off the last of the dinosaur fossils that we find. So it's like dinosaur fossils, yay, all throughout the Mesozoic, and then boom, iridium layer. And after that iridium layer, no dinosaurs after that. And iridium is almost exclusively associated in the amounts that we have it in meteors, right? Asteroids, meteorites, extraterrestrial objects, things of that nature. So basically, we've got this nice scenario of like, all right, well, something happened that was associated with a lot of iridium at the same time that this crater is dated to, and no dinosaurs are found after it. It serves to reason that this is probably in part what killed off the dinosaurs, although the Deccan traps are also an additional portion. The relationship between this massive scale of volcanism in India and when this asteroid hit, they're timed pretty close together. But whether it was coincidence or the impactor, actually had some role in setting off that volcanism, because when this asteroid slammed into the Earth, right, like people don't, it's hard to conceptualize. We're talking about a big space rock, approximately the size of Mount Everest, traveling like faster than a bullet, and it slams into the surface of the Earth and causes like Richter scale 9 to 10 earthquakes globally, right? I mean, it incinerates things that are anywhere like South America. If you lived in Alabama, you would have seen a bright light and you would have been broiled alive. I mean, things on the other side of the planet eventually die too, because it's not just the impact that kills things. It slams into a specific portion of the Earth that has a lot of, I believe it's sulfur, which is like a really excellent insulator for the Earth. It throws a ton of debris into the air. And what this ends up doing is blocking out the sun for large periods of time and causing a lot of animals to die of starvation, because first of all, it kills off a lot of the plants, and then things that eat the plants die, and then things that eat the plant eaters die. And so you end up with this full-scale ecological collapse. So what then can survive and how? That's the next question. Overwhelmingly, the critters that seem to have survived the impact event of the Cretaceous, the KPG impactor, are burrowing animals and insects, right? So animals, there's this really cool statistic that I only just recently learned, or I guess fact that I only recently learned, that when we were running a lot of the tests, the atomic bomb tests out in the American Southwest prior to the bombing of Hiroshima in the 1940s, they noticed that animals that burrowed like as little as 20 centimeters below the Earth were pretty protected from the impacts of heat and radiation, even though they were fairly close to where these bombs were detonated. And the idea is that, okay, well, just a little bit of Earth actually can protect you from a lot of heat and radiation, I guess, just due to how the difference of Earth and the air and the water actually holds heat and radiation. And so animals that were natural burrowers, small mammals, small waterside birds, insects, these kinds of animals survived the initial impact and the heat that followed. And burrowers tend to have like insectivorous, so that means they eat, they eat a lot of bugs, diets, and bugs are also burrowers oftentimes. So you end up with this sort of subscale ecosystem that survives and can sustain itself in the immediate aftermath of this large scale mass extinction that killed, I believe, something like 75%, 80%, something along those lines of species. And it's what's cool about this is we actually have these fossils from these early mammals, from these burrowing birds, and we can trace back the ancestry of all living birds to this single waterside burrower and to this single group of mammaliforms that survived, mammals and mammaliforms that survived.
That was a lot.
Does that make sense? It's basically like if you dig a hole, you can survive a big impact. And it's from those guys that we can trace our survivors to. Most of our survivors, at least.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm going to have to totally go back and listen to this whole thing so I can hear everything you just said again. Go watch some more documentaries. But that does make logical sense. So, yeah, that's interesting because I watched that and I was like, I'm going to have to ask them.
Yeah.
Because that's, I'm learning more about science, and I'm, as I'm open to learning more about science, it's causing me, of course, to question the complete ridiculousness that I was taught to believe. I mean, I don't mean to blame my beliefs again, but it's like I'm 52 years old and I'm learning all of this stuff now. It's a complete mind opener. So thank you for answering that question.
Man,
that does help.
I'm so glad to hear that you're. Gosh, it's so much fun. I actually look back very fondly to after I left creationism as like I was like a pretty young kid when I did, like I was like in middle school, but it was like the world just opens up like a flower to you and all of this stuff that now you can learn. You learn it without fear. I mean, there's nothing to fear from science. There's nothing to fear from the truth. Right. And I'm envious of you of all the stuff that you're going to get to dig into for the first time. If you like this mass extinction stuff, I'm going to recommend a book to you. It's one of my favorite sort of like for pleasure reads. It's called The Ends of the World by Peter Brannon. It's about all of these big mass extinctions and how do we know that they happened the way that they happened and what survived and why did it survive and what did we lose in each of these major mass extinctions and what did we gain? Right? Like the classic example is like if the dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, and I should say the non-avian dinosaurs and the marine reptiles hadn't gone extinct, we wouldn't have the incredible diversity of mammals and interestingly enough, birds that we have today. We wouldn't have the whales or the bats or the primates or,
Why not?
Or the ungulates.
Why not?
Why wouldn't we? Because after the mass extinction that killed off the dinosaurs, a ton of open niches, right, were available for these mammals to evolve into, right? So think about what a T-Rex does, right? Like a T-Rex is this big overland ambush predator. No mammal can evolve to fill that role because the T-Rex is already in it and it's doing it well. But if T-Rex goes extinct, all of a sudden that big ambush predator niche or ecological job opens up for something else to evolve into and fill. Same thing with little fast runners, like some of our smaller two-legged dinosaurs that we had, or like big herbivores like sauropods. Think like the long-necked dinosaurs, right? Like elephants fill a similar role or similar niche to those guys, these browsers that can reach the tops of the trees and manipulate their environment to some degree, right? So what happens is after a mass extinction, you basically destroy a ton of ecological jobs, if you will, and now those can be filled by animals that survived, who can now evolve in really crazy ways that they couldn't before because the job was already filled. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and that makes me ask the question, okay, from what I learned, whether it was in school or whatever, I did not think there was a lot of dinosaurs. Do you think that when the dinosaurs were on the earth, that there was like a lot of them? Because for some reason in my mind, and maybe it's just because the dinosaur bones that we find, like I always thought it was really rare to find a dinosaur skeleton. So I viewed like all these dinosaurs and things as there was just like a few here and a few there and a few here. Do you think that they were just like all kinds of dinosaurs just covering the whole earth?
It's not just that I think that, we know that. If you were to travel back in time to the Triassic, the Jurassic, or the Cretaceous, you were to just zap there, it would be like looking at a fully filled African savanna in its diversity. I mean, you would have unimaginable forms of dinosaurs, some of which we will never find in the fossil record because first of all, fossilizing is hard to do. It's rare. Second of all, finding fossils is hard to do. It's rare. And the reason is because, bones fall out of cliff sides and things of that nature, and there's nobody there to collect them, or they're destroyed, or they're subducted under the earth, all sorts of different things. But every ecological niche or job that you can imagine that exists today, and perhaps even more, were filled by species of dinosaur and species of early mammal and species of bird, which are, avian dinosaurs, and marine reptiles and all sorts of different incredible creatures. We have a sample of that diversity preserved today in our museums, and we're finding more and more species each and every year and filling out what that roster would have looked like. But I mean, it would have been as impressive as the diversity that you see today. In fact, over the entire course of when the dinosaurs ruled, which was, 150 million plus years. I mean, dinosaurs were around for more than double the amount of time that modern, like Cenozoic mammals have been around today, which is like incredible to think of, because you got to think, you've got 65 million years ago, about approximately 65 million years ago, dinosaurs go extinct, and you start to see the reign of the mammals and mammal-like animals and birds and things of that nature that we have today. It's like dinosaurs were around from the Triassic all the way to 65 million years ago. When did the Triassic officially start? Triassic, one second, approximately 250 million years ago. So, I mean, we've got just unbelievable amounts of time that the dinosaurs would have been around. And not just the dinosaurs. I mean, the Triassic was home to all of these absolutely insane crocodile-looking things, pseudosuchians that were like running around. I mean, it would have been an absolute blast to travel back in time and see that diversity. It would have been different from today. But one thing you would notice is that even though the animals looked different in a lot of ways, they would be doing a lot of the same things that animals are doing today. You'd have quick little predators, and you'd have, big bulky grazers, and you'd have swimming animals that eat fish, and you would have filter feeding animals that filter small plankton and zooplankton through bristles, kind of like how whales and flamingos do today. It would have just been absolutely incredible to see.
It really would. Like, you really do just wish that there was somewhere you could just look back and just see what that looks like.
This is why I love paleontology so much, because the role of these paleontologists is to discover and then paint the picture of, what do we know about these worlds of the past? Like, what would it have been like? I just read this book called Other Lands that's about just that. It's kind of like taking a time machine into the past. And the author is a scientist who describes, like, okay, like if you were walking around in the Triassic in what is now China, what would you have seen? What would you have smelled? What would you have heard? And it's the Triassic, so you wouldn't see flowers on the trees because flowers didn't evolve until the very tail end of the Cretaceous. And you wouldn't have heard birds singing because birds don't evolve until later in the Mesozoic. And so it would have been a very different, like, what would you have smelled? It would have been the smells of different types of plants, and you would have heard insects that don't exist anymore as they chirp in the trees. It would have been unbelievable. But it's like that's why this kind of stuff is exciting. And I'll tell you, not only would the world of the Mesozoic be as rich as it is today, but it's getting richer every single day as we discover more and more about the denizens of that slice of time.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much for sharing all that with me.
Thank you for letting me yap about it. I love talking about that kind of stuff.
Well, that was interesting. So I'm definitely going to have to. What was the thing that you just said about was it a book somebody wrote about what it would have looked like in China? Was that a book?
Yes. So the book is called Other Lands. It's called Other Lands. Let me give you the Other Lands by Thomas Halliday. It's got a beautiful turn on the cover of it. It's wonderful. It's excuse me. It's beautiful. The prose is actually gorgeous. I mean, and that's what drew me to it, is because it's like this guy is like an artist with words. So he's describing. I mean, that's what all writers are. But he's like painting this picture for you of, like, he talks about in the Pleistocene, like what would it have been like to walk in the Arctic, and at the specific time of year, these great cold deserts filled with horses, the only thing that can withstand eating low quality food for that time of the year. And the mammoths have migrated away, and the big grazers, other big grazers like buffalo and bison have migrated away. And like, what would that have felt like as the wind whipped through your hair and tossed up all of this dust and debris, and yet you still see these horses managing to eke out a living. And I don't know, you'll really enjoy it. I'll be eager. If you read it, send me an email and tell me what you thought, because I thought it was great.
I will. I definitely will. So, well, thank you. I will let you guys go and get on to other callers, because Matt gave me enough to talk about or to think about. So I'm going to have to go simmer with that, definitely.
You tend to do that.
I would like to give you.
Yeah, and I'm going to.
I'd like to say something. I'm going to hang up after I'm done saying this, but I want to make sure you heard it and didn't have to go back and listen to it. This is for everybody. This is just weird stuff about how my brain works and what I think about in conversations like this. So here's some more food for thought. Ask yourself, Janet, and everybody else who didn't know the science information that Erika was presenting, to what extent are you now convinced that what Erika just said is accurate? Because you haven't gone out and done any research. You're just listening to someone and they're telling you something. And yet there's a feeling that people get. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't trust that feeling, but how much do you understand about the subject? What other research have you looked into? What position do you currently hold that it might conflict with? And what evidence is that one based on? It's that comparison that is important, because if somebody who agrees with you on God comes out tomorrow and says everything Erika said is wrong, okay, now you're stuck because two people made claims. And, while Erika presented stuff, it's not like she presented the actual research, it's her assessment of the research. So we are trusting experts constantly, because we can't all be experts on everything, and many of us can't be experts on anything. but our confidence should be proportional to the evidence, a la David Hume, and to our comprehension of the subject. My meager addition to Hume's dictum. What Erika's talking about and presenting is a case, but it's not Erika's exuberance or passion or how clearly she understands it or the cool ways that she can represent it. It's the data behind it that builds this model. And that data is publicly accessible. It's independently verifiable. It is subject to peer review. The process behind it and the character of the presenter is such that if a creationist were to come out tomorrow and show solid evidence that everything we understood about evolution was wrong, or that even just the limits of what Erika talked about today were wrong, I'm incredibly confident that Erika would not only accept that, but because the mission is to help correct misunderstandings of information with others, she'd be talking about it all the damn time. And so the question then is, why do religious claims about the diversity of life not have even a hint of reliable evidence for their model? And the presenters don't even have a hint of the character to reject their model based on better information. Food for thought.
Those are good questions. I know, that's good food for thought. I will go chew on it, for sure.
Thank you so much, Janet. I got to move on now.
You, Janet.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, guys.
Our pleasure. That's the thing, is that there's a group that's leading the evidence where they want it to go and a group that's following the evidence wherever it leads. And you can spot it pretty quickly once you learn that this is what you need to look for.
Well, it's also, I mean, the history on this is because of the nature of science and peer review and the habit of writing things down. I mean, you can find debates from 50 years ago recorded on Google Scholar and track through how people changed their minds and who beefed with who and why people eventually changed their minds. But I mean, it's like, it being wrong can be hard, but as we always say, right, it means you're closer to being right. And the nature of science is that it is constantly provisional, right? Like it's subject to change. That's, I say this like a broken record, but that's its greatest strength. That's not a weakness. You'll hear religious folks, I hear it mostly from creationists, will be like, how can you trust science when it's always changing? That's why you should trust it. Because the reason it's changing is that new information comes to light and we go, oh, duh, right? And it's not like people used to be stupid. It's that new information comes, we gather more data, and it fine-tunes our expectations and our understanding of the world around us in a way that makes better predictions and leads to real material improvements in how people live their lives. I mean, it's the most tangible working method that we have.
There's an analogy that just popped into my head, especially since we're approaching more and more self-driving cars. And if somebody was watching a self-driving car and watching it swerve around, they might be inclined to say, there's no way I'm going to trust that car. Look at it. It's swerving all over the place. But it might be swerving because it's broken, or it might be swerving because it has better responses and is making adjustments to that in order to drive more safely. Are you suggesting, not you, Erika, but the people who would make this, are you suggesting that we should trust a car that only goes straight, no matter what, and doesn't swerve? Because I think that's a recipe for disaster. And so there's a difference between adjusting for good reasons in order to be more accurate, more safe, better across the board, and adjusting for bad reasons, which is a flailing, floundering kind of a way to figure things out.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you see it with little drones too, like how they operate in the sky when they're like, to maintain their stability, they're like making all these small adjustments and it makes them look kind of twitchy, but like, that's why they're still flying, because they're managing to make all these little adjustments.
All right. We got more callers. As a reminder, you're watching The Line. This is the Sunday show here on The Line. We appreciate everybody calling in. There are a number of different shows throughout the week here. You can also support us at patreon.com/calltheline. You can go to linemerch.com, but you can like and subscribe and follow and all of that stuff. This is the Sunday show. It's me and Erika today. The Sunday show After Dark will air at 7 p.m. Central, so about 4 hours and 10 minutes from now. And that'll have Forrest Valkai and Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrel on tonight. Monday's shows start at 6 p.m. Central. That's Skeptalk. And tomorrow's going to be Forrest Valkai and John Gleason. Tuesday's show, by the way, Skeptalk is kind of like what we just did a little bit. It is slightly more science focused, pseudoscience focused than religion focused. But you can pretty much talk. I'm sure that we've taken questions about every subject on every show, but we try to kind of narrow it a little bit. Tuesday's show is Chewed Gum. That's also 6 p.m. Central with Alyssa and Taylor on this week. That is about purity culture and women's issues from the standpoint of secularists responding to the sort of baggage, both with regard to sex and gender roles and society's positions, that the boxes that they'd like to put people into, and particularly the trials and struggles and advantages and disadvantages that women have or face. That's Tuesdays at 6 p.m. On Wednesdays, it's the Hang Up. And this week, nobody's going to fuck with me this week because unfortunately, we had a cancellation. But fortunately, Jesse Jurdick has decided to come on with me. And since I'm old and frail and can barely lift a 1-gallon pitcher of water to water my snakes, it's nice to have Jesse around. I'm being silly because nobody's going to come at us while we're live on YouTube. The Transatlantic Call-In Show airs Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central. This week, it's Ben and Luxander. They will be happy as two trans people to take your calls, to talk to you about trans rights, trans issues, especially in this time where not only are trans people a target, but trans allies are a target. The Heritage Foundation put together a proposal that two different government officials have said the FBI is considering. And I'm not going to go through it in detail. I posted links to all of it and their little write-up. But essentially, the widest interpretation of what they've submitted is that anyone who merely believes, no action required, but if it can be shown your belief, that a failure to fully accept trans ideology represents a threat to trans folks' emotional, psychological, or physical safety. Anybody who believes that is now labeled a violent extremist, is the thing that they're trying to do. It's thought crime. It's 100% thought crime. And it's designed to end any sort of allyship because the bullies and transphobes are tired of being called bullies and transphobes. And so if instead they can say, hey, all of you people who are calling us bullies and transphobes, all of you people who are saying we're hurting trans people, we're just going to label you all violent extremists so that our new FBI under podcaster Kash Patel can come after you as domestic terrorists. And so those are just some of the shows on the line. There's also special episodes of Hostility and Cus I Wanna and Calling It Now, all over the place, all the time. You need to like and subscribe because whether you hate me or you hate Erika, let's be honest, those people probably don't exist. I'm sure they're creationists. They're absolutely furious with you, but they can't leave you alone. They're like, I got to keep going until I get to Erika.
I got a couple of real mad race realists too who are on my case these days. I don't know, Matt. I piss a couple of people off, but I try to be nice when I do it so they look even goofier when they come at me.
I was nicer for the first 2 years too.
It's funny that you say that because I've talked about it before. You start to feel the patience take a nosedive because you're like, oh, it's I fool me 6,000 times. Shame on you, right? Like
the other thing is, I'm not going to get sidetracked on this. We'll say that for the next interruption. Let's get to callers. So Kevin is a theist calling from Louisiana. Sorry, pronouns are him. Kevin says we exist inside of God's brain. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
I'm good. It's more of a Osmosis Jones effect, or an explanation, anyways.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, well, you understand the science of neurology, correct?
Well, no, I'm not a neurologist, but I understand that there is such a science, and I have spent some time looking into some of it, but I'm not going to claim I understand neurology.
Matt, if I may.
Okay, well, if we follow...
Please.
Osmosis Jones was a cartoon that came out when I was a kid about, I believe it, who's it? I think it was Will Smith, and then who played the other guy? Whatever, they're germs, right, that live in you, and then it's about
Smith, it was Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. Damn it. Are you sure? Wait, are you sure? Was it Chris Rock?
Positive.
Osmosis Jones. Osmosis Jones, 2001. Nah, you're right. It was Chris Rock and Bill Murray. And Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Anyways, they play like a germ and then like like what is it? A acetaminophen, like a Tylenol, and then they're trying to figure out who's making their host sick, and it's sort of like a bunch of different.
The movie is irrelevant.
Well,
Okay.
but it's important because you made the analogy, and I think Matt should know about Osmosis Jones because it's a cultural icon. Anyways, the idea is that we're all literally inside God's brain in the same way that Chris Rock and Bill Murray were inside the body of their host. Actually, I don't think Bill Murray was the Tylenol now that I'm thinking about it, but in the same way that they were trying to like sleuth out who the virus was, we're in existence inside the brain of God, and we're just like milling around. It's sort of like a Lovecraftian thing. No, Kevin?
Yes. Now let me explain a little further. As a universalist, I suppose, the universe itself is learning about itself by documenting itself all throughout the history, throughout religion, culture, whatever you're looking for. The essence of what you call God can be found in one timeline individually throughout all of those.
Hang on. Just for clarity, it sounds like you're reading this, and if that's what you need to do, that's fine. But when you say the essence of what you call God, I don't define God. You're the one here. You're going to need to define the God you're talking about.
Okay. Do you understand the anime Avatar?
Because I'm not defining a God. So when you say we all exist inside God's mind, I have no idea what description of God you are talking about.
The originator,
would you hang on? Just hang on. I don't know what God you are talking about, nor do I understand what it means to exist inside of that being, nor is there any justification for thinking that that's even possible. So those are the things that I'd like you to get.
Have you ever read up on Sigmund and Freud? Or not Sigmund and Freud, Sigmund Freud?
I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was going to get hostile so quickly. I'm literally telling you what I would like for you to explain so that you can explain it, and you are just instantly hostile. Why is that?
I actually don't know. Give me a moment. It's
cool.
Probably due to the disbelief around the tension. My bad. Give me a moment. Let me breathe. Ask very specific questions so that I can give you an answer. Otherwise, you're asking chaotic questions, and I have to speak through a bunch of information.
I'm sorry. I didn't think anything about my questions were remotely chaotic, but I'm telling you that what I need you to do is tell me what you mean by God and how you can tell that we live inside God's brain.
What I mean by God is the life force. Do you not feel alive?
I am alive by definition.
Okay, by definition, you're alive.
How I feel?
Do you feel alive? I didn't ask you by definition. I asked you, do you feel alive?
I don't know why you asked me a question and then refused to let me fucking answer it. I asked you a question and then you refused to answer the question.
Now, am I not being specific enough?
I'm being hostile because you are interrupting me to not let me answer the question you've asked. That's why. Is that clear?
Very.
Cool. So when you asked me, do I feel alive? I don't know what that means, but to the extent that it means anything to me,
then you don't have the essence of God.
Here you are again, Kevin. It literally right after the word "but." I'm going to make this really easy. I'm going to mute you. Please try to pay attention, because it's going to be very hard to take you seriously. I'm asking you to tell me what God you're talking about and how you know that we live inside that God's mind. And you, in response to that, asked me if I feel alive. Now, I don't know what it means when you say, do I feel alive? I also don't see what that has to do with the definition of God or anything else. I am currently alive, and my experience is aligned with some concept of alive, but I don't know what you mean by do I feel alive, and I don't know why it's relevant. So please, when I take you off mute, just say something like, oh, I'm just talking about this is what I mean by alive, and here's how you can know that you're inside the mind of God. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know why this is hard, so I'm taking you off mute now. Please do that.
Okay. To feel alive, have you ever had a reason to smile?
A reason to what?
Smile. Open mouth, straight up, grin wide open, your teeth are open, just straight up smile.
Okay. I didn't know that was the definition. I didn't know that that was the definition of smile. But of course, Kevin, have you ever watched the show before?
I try.
So have you ever seen me? Kevin, I'm going to mute you because you don't know how to shut the fuck up or answer a simple single question. So here we go. Kevin, have you ever seen me smile?
Have I seen you smile? No. Do I know that you have? Yeah.
Cool. So why would you ask me if I've ever had a cause to smile or a reason to smile or felt like smiling if you know for a fact I have?
Because you said you didn't. My bad. It was because you said you didn't feel alive.
No. I did not say that I do not feel alive. Please pay attention because you're really, really, really making it difficult to have a conversation with you. When did I say that I do not feel alive?
Your original statement before you started arguing about the fact that
No, sir. My original statement was not that I do not feel alive. It's that I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, it is your bad. So please answer the question. Yeah. How can we know that we exist in the mind of God?
Well, that goes into Sigmund Freud's and all his stories and his.
No, Kevin, I promise you. I will move on to one of the other people who are honest and sincere and want to engage on a topic. But I'm bending over backwards. I am exercising every bit of patience and control because I would like for you to tell me, you called in to say we exist inside God's brain. I only need to know two things. What do you mean by God? And how do you know we exist inside of God's brain? Sigmund Freud is irrelevant. Sigmund Freud is a person or was a person. And there is nothing about Freud or anything he said that can confirm a God or that we exist inside of a God's brain. That's not how confirmation of these sorts of things are. Plus, you have to start by defining, Kevin ran away.
He didn't want to define God or how we know that he's in his brain.
That's so disappointing, Kevin. All you had to do was say, by God, I mean this, and here's how I know that we live in God's brain.
That would ruin the case, though, because the case requires a lot of vibes-based sort of woo script reading that it sort of obfuscates the actual question. That's the hope, I think. I don't know. It's weird to me. Like, if Kevin had watched the show before, I think he would know that kind of thing doesn't normally fly around here.
It's one of the reasons, and I'll try to explain this briefly to people. Yes, I've done this for 20 years. And despite that, I'm still not overly cynical and overly jaded. But we know for a fact that there are dishonest interlocutors who call into these shows specifically to troll. Some of them, all they want to do is piss me off. And it's not that hard to get the reaction that they want. All you have to do is repeatedly be dishonest and force me to ask you the same question over and over again, and I will lose my shit. And by the way, I don't think there are people who are like, oh, you should never do that. It makes you look bad. I don't give a shit. I think it's justified because I'm here willing to have an honest conversation, asking questions and answering questions, and they're not. And so it's really strange to be saying, okay, all I need you to do is tell me, what do you mean by God and how do you know we're in the brain? Well, it goes back to Sigmund Freud and blah, blah, blah. Or have you ever smiled? Do you feel alive? All of this is, what was that? What did I say?
I said Sigmund and Freud.
Yeah, yes. It is really wild. And I get it. Most of you out there don't have conversations like this because conversations that happen on the show aren't the same as they would be in person. I guarantee you, if Kevin was sitting at a table across from me or in a chair on stage with me, that would not have happened. It is the pseudo or actual anonymity of the internet, and the fact that nobody has to be real or represent themselves. When people call in and we say, hey, what's your name? Are you a theist or a non-theist? What are your preferred pronouns? They could be lying about all of it, and many of them are. And I have no way of checking it. It's a call-in show. And so all I have to do is say, okay, we want to have good conversations, and we want to support a community. And I would like to make sure that myself and my co-host get to ask questions, get them answered, present feedback. We'll give a lecture on topics if we need to, whatever else. But I want to make sure that the audience is respected, and so are the other people who are on hold. Because theists always go to the top of the line. I'm getting ready to take Sebastian's call right now, right after I'm done with this little side thing. Theists always get priority here. And what does that mean? That means there are people who are not serious, not genuine, or not sufficiently versed in the subject who call in and occupy our time. It is the same sort of distraction to try to keep us off message. Let me be clear. I've done this for 20 years. You cannot get me and keep me off message. I'm a machine. Every person who said, oh, don't do too much, Matt, you're going to burn out. Oh, they're going to distract you. Here I am 20 years later, still going, still doing it. And when I ask a question, it's because I genuinely want to know the answer, or, and this is the thing they're terrified of, I'm asking for clarity so that we know how to direct the conversation. And to them, many of them, especially because they're already defensive, it reads as, oh, that's a trick question. There's nothing trick questiony about, it's not like I said, when did you stop beating your partner? There's nothing trick questiony about saying, tell me what you mean by God and tell me how you know what you know.
Well, and I think, this isn't a double standard, right? Like either of us, I know you in particular, but I'll lump myself in there because I feel that I can do this as well. Like we're happy to define our terms, and we know the definitions of our terms, and we can articulate our point clearly and simply, even though for some of us it takes longer to articulate it than others. It's like we can explain what we believe and why we believe it in a way that the average person can understand. And then we can have a conversation about those two ideas. Yeah. It's like if you're calling in though, and this is actually, I don't think, and I was being a little mean and tongue in cheek with the Sigmund and Freud thing, because God knows I've had slips of the tongue too. But the point of this show is to have a conversation. And if you can't define your terms, we can't have a conversation. Like straight up, we can't, because neither of us know what we're talking about. None of us, we're not in agreement on the basic concepts of the conversation we're trying to have. So it's not unreasonable to ask, hey, can you define what you mean? Because truly, we get a zillion of these calls. Matt's been doing this, as he said, for 20 years. Many people define God in many different ways. Many people have different standards for what they place as like their baseline to believe something. So understanding where we're all coming from is critical for having a chat about it. Please don't feel offended when we ask you to clarify, because we're not trying to mock you or make you look dumb. If we're asking, it's because we don't know what you mean and we want to know what you mean.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Let's try again. Sebastian, pronouns are he, they, from DC, wants to explain why we should convert and what good things religion has done. Hey, Sebastian, what is it we should convert to and why?
Hello, Matt. Please let me know if I slur my words, as I have a tendency to do that. Speech impediment and all that stuff. I hope you're having a good afternoon.
Thank you.
So as to the first question, why you should convert, the answer is you should.
No, that's the second question.
Sorry, what was the first question?
What should we convert to?
Oh, my response is you shouldn't convert.
I'm sorry. I need to stop you, Sebastian. The call screener note here specifically says wants to explain why we should convert and what good things religion has done. Is that not the subject of your call?
Yes.
And so I'm asking you, because you said to the call screener, who said to us, Sebastian wants to tell us why we should convert. So my first question is, what should we convert to? And your answer is that we shouldn't convert. Do you understand that this makes no sense?
Yes, and I would like to explain why.
I don't want you to explain why it doesn't make sense. I'd like you to make sense.
No, the problem is, my issue isn't with your question. My issue is with what Christians do.
I'm sorry.
God said to go
Sebastian. No, Sebastian, listen. That's the first mention of Christian I've ever heard in this call. You said you wanted to explain why we should convert. I asked what we should convert to, and your answer was to give a complete non sequitur. And then you said that you knew it doesn't make sense, and I'm wanting you to make sense. And then you start talking about Christianity. Are you suggesting, when you told the call screener that you wanted to explain why we should convert, what did you mean?
I meant that the choice of converting or not converting isn't the real question.
So I apologize, Sebastian. I'm not equipped for this call, but Erika might do much better. I don't understand a thing you're saying.
Hey, Sebastian, I'll chime in here, right? So we work with our openers here. We work based off of what the call screener has said. So you've identified yourself here as a theist, and the question is, or the call screener says that you want to explain to us why we should convert, and what good things religion has done. So I'm assuming that you're a theist, so you have a religious perspective, and I would assume that you would want us to convert to that perspective. So can you please tell us what you believe and why we should also believe it? Just like in quick succession, like a couple of sentences.
Can I start with the second question and then come back to the first? Because I think we'll at least get one across.
I want to hear your perspective for the second question, but given the premise of this show, it's really important that we know the answer to the first question first.
Okay.
So what do you believe?
I believe there is a God. I believe God exists.
Okay. Why do you believe
I believe whether philosophically there must be a beginning and there must be an end. And my question has always been, what caused the beginning and what will cause the end?
So we've gotten that kind of call before. Why must there be a beginning to the universe? What makes you say that?
Because there is a before and after.
Not necessarily. I'm no cosmologist, right? But we've had we have people who know cosmology very well on the show, and I've heard them explain this in depth many times. I'm not going to be able to articulate it as well as they can, but there are multiple models of cosmology. Some of them do include an ostensible beginning, at least of space-time as we currently understand it, and some of them argue that the universe is infinite or recursive or this, that, or the other thing. Point being, there is not necessarily a beginning, although I do believe that that still is the dominant perspective for a cosmological model.
Okay. Based on that, that's the model I was taught growing up.
Okay, so you're saying given that there was a beginning, something must have caused that beginning. Why must that something be a someone?
It may not necessarily be someone. It may be.
Why do you think it is?
The reason why I don't know is because I can't define God. All I know is what others have said he says to be, he is.
I apologize for interrupting, but we finally have to a moment of brief clarity. And that is, you said that you believe there's a God, and now you're saying you can't define God. How do you think you can believe something that you cannot define?
sort of the same reason why I believe in quantum mechanics, though I literally couldn't explain it. I sat in lectures.
Don't you think that's a mistake to say, like, for example, if I don't understand quantum mechanics personally, and so I don't say I believe in quantum mechanics. What I say instead is that I have confidence that the people who understand this subject are reliably relaying information to me. But like I said before, where Hume says the wise man proportions his confidence to the evidence, I added to that he also needs to proportion it to his comprehension. Because while there may be a mountain of evidence for something, if I don't understand it, I definitely cannot believe it. And instead, all I can say that I believe is that I believe there are people who understand this, and I'm going to go with their recommendation as a testament of confidence in both their methodologies and their characters. But I can't say I believe in it. But in this case, you're calling a show to talk about a God that you don't seem to know what it is, but you believe in it, and whether or not we should convert. And so, I mean, even though we got away from the initial confusion, I'm still unclear of what you're saying.
Basically, my overall point is life has so much nebulous information in it that trying to comprehend everything
Sebastian,
is a laudable goal, but not a practical goal.
Sorry, I interrupted you there for a minute, but I just want to say, I liked what you said earlier when we were talking, and we were talking about defining God or what God is. You said, I don't know, right? Like, not knowing something is fine. Being able to say you don't know something is totally fine. What isn't fine, in my opinion, is to not know something and to insist upon it anyways. So not being able to define God yet insisting there must be one is a bit problematic to me. And not being able to explain what it is that you believe and why is tough. And I am always a bit suspicious on appeals to, well, look how much we don't know. Well, sure, we don't know a lot of stuff, but that doesn't mean you can just sort of fit a God-shaped peg there, right? You have to have a reason to insist that of all the things that we don't know, God is the necessary explanation for them, instead of just saying, we don't know something. We don't know. I mean, goodness, I couldn't explain quantum mechanics to you, for example. But does that make sense, what I'm trying to say, what I'm getting at there?
Yes, and that sort of brings me back to my original point I was making. You shouldn't convert. My whole point I was trying to make is I can explain what I believe. Whether or not you want to believe it is up to you.
It's okay. So first of all, no, stop. Belief is not a choice. You don't get to tell me whether or not I choose to believe it. Belief is not a choice. I'm either convinced or I'm not convinced. And you are saying that you're convinced of something that you don't understand and can't define. And you are saying that, so now I think I'm understanding when you said we shouldn't convert, you're saying that Erika and I should not convert to what you believe. And my question is then, why are you convinced that it's true if Erika and I shouldn't be?
Okay. And the reason why I believe it is true is based on the experiences I have lived and have felt and have experienced, and that has led me toward the concept of a supreme being.
Okay. What is it that led you to accept the concept of a supreme being?
Dealing with my sexuality.
What does your sexuality, what can your sexuality possibly have to do with a supreme being?
Based on the information I was told as a young person, that what I was doing was a sin, or the way I felt was a sin, or
I do not. So you're going to have to do better. I understand. Listen. I understand you have had some experiences, and in those experiences, people told you things related to your sexuality. At some point, you either became convinced that what they were telling you was correct or that what they were telling you was incorrect. In both of those scenarios, nothing about that has any sort of tie to whether or not there's a God at all. So when I asked you, what experiences did you have that convinced you that there was a supreme being? You went to, somebody told me something about my sexuality being wrong. I'd like for you to explain. You can be as specific as you want. I don't need to know any details about your sexuality other than you have some sexual preference or predilection. Somebody else said it was wrong. You either wound up agreeing with them or disagreeing with them. I don't know which. And that led you to a belief in a supreme being. I do not understand how, like, for example, I like chocolate ice cream. If somebody said that I was immoral to like chocolate ice cream, whether I came to believe them or agree with them or not, would in no way lead me to the conclusion that there must be a supreme being. So what is it about this that makes you think there's a supreme being?
So I prayed and I received an answer.
You prayed and you received an answer. So now, so listen up, Sebastian. First of all, I'm going to let you finish, or try to let you finish. And I'd love to know what you prayed and how you know that you got an answer, and how you know you got an answer from anything other than your own mind. However, when I asked you what convinced you there's a supreme being, you didn't say, oh, because I received answered prayer. Instead, you went to, somebody said something about my sexuality. So it has nothing to do with your sexuality or somebody's claim about your sexuality. And now the reason you're convinced is because you prayed and you got an answer. So what did you pray? What was the answer? And how does the answer point to a supreme being?
I'm sorry, I'm a bad storyteller. But basically, I prayed, if God exists, why did you make me this way? And God answered my prayers by saying, I made you exactly the way you're supposed to be. And it didn't come.
How do you know that it was God saying, I made you the way you're supposed to be?
Because it didn't come from me.
How do you know that it didn't come from you?
I know my mind as well as I can, and it didn't come from me.
Okay. That's not a response that anyone, including you, should accept. Because when I said, how do you know that it wasn't you? You just said, I just believe it. I know me, and I didn't think that. Do you know every aspect of your psychology, for example? Have you never had thoughts crop up? I mean, but even if it came from somewhere else, how did you rule out that it came from an evil spirit, an alien, or a mind control device, someone like me who has incredible psychic powers sending you messages, or God? How did you determine that it was God from those four?
From those four, if it was aliens, they haven't responded. If it was you as a psychic, it could be you. I don't know. Maybe you are God. Sorry, Sebastian.
I'm not God. I'm not God, and I'm not psychic. And so, right off the bat, here's the point that I'm trying to make, Sebastian. You've reached a conclusion. You had an experience, and you've reached a conclusion that the origin of that experience is a God. And I'm still trying to figure out how you did that, because you presented no evidence, just an assertion that it had to be God because it wasn't me, when you haven't even shown how you ruled out it was you, just that you don't believe it was you. How do you know you're not delusional?
It's a 10% chance. But
how do you know it's correlated? Okay, Sebastian, I'm going to ask you to do the math and show me the 10%.
90% is reconfirming my experience with what happened in the Bible. And then the 10% is I could have just been nuts or had an out-of-body experience or mental issues. I can't 100% say with certainty.
Nobody's asking for certainty. We're asking, so you're basically saying you can't be certain, but it's 90-10. How do you know it's not 90-10 the other way? And Erika, I put a note in VMix.
The interaction I had corresponded with how it has been stated God has interacted with people in the Bible.
How do you know that the description in the Bible of how God interacts with people is accurate? Maybe those people were delusional as well.
It's consistently delusional then.
Okay. Is it impossible? Is it impossible for there to be consistent delusional types of thought? Aren't we all kind of human and prone to making many of the same mistakes? And by the way, when somebody makes a mistake and tells somebody, so when I grew up, I was standing in church and we're all singing and praising, and I feel elated and I feel goosebumps and I feel euphoric. And the people around me say, you're feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit. And because I'm there with them, and I don't know any more than they do, and many of them are older than me, they've done this for longer, they've interacted with more people, I just take their word for it that what I'm experiencing is the Holy Spirit. I have no evidence, I have no justification. It becomes a communal delusion to some extent, with no evidence to back it up. How is what you're describing different from what I'm describing?
It really isn't.
Okay. On that front, Sebastian, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to let you go. And you can go off and think about this. Take it as some food for thought. We're going to move on to some other callers. And you can kind of sit with that. And if you come up with a better explanation of what you believe, why you believe it, and why you think we or anybody else should, give us a call back. But thank you so much for the call.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Oh, okay. John's calling from Ohio. John's a theist, pronouns he, him, who wants to talk to Erika about what a trans person is.
Oh,
weird.
Boy.
We have a whole show for that.
Yes. How are you today?
Exhausted. How are you?
All right. Yeah. Erika is a biologist, correct?
I am called a biologist. I'm called a primatologist. I'm called the biological anthropologist. You can call me a biologist if you'd like. I have relevant formal expertise in that subject. But my formal degree, pre-professional animal science, I was on the pre-vet track in undergrad. I got my master's in primatology, and I'm currently training to be a doctorate, or to get my doctorate in biological anthropology. Those are all under the biology header, so sure, biologist.
Okay. I was reading online where the Jewish Talmud was saying that the rabbis writing in the Talmud said that Adam was created androgynine, that based on Genesis 1:27, that both Adam and Eve were supposed to be Adam. I just
I have
wondered...
a question. I have a question. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt, because I know you're trying to talk to Erika as a biologist.
By all means.
What possible difference could it make to anybody? Why should anybody give a damn what the Talmud says or what it means? That's not science.
Well, I guess I'm wondering, do trans people consider themselves to be androgynine, is my question.
John, I can't speak to that because I'm not a trans person, but we do have a show hosted by trans people called the Transatlantic Call-In Show. I believe it's on Thursdays. I can certainly talk to you about the science behind how we know that trans people exist. I know that's these days controversial to say. I just got put on a list, I'm sure. But other than that, I mean, I'm not going to speak to the experiences of a trans person because I'm not a trans person myself.
Well, the Talmud seems to indicate that their ultimate goal is to turn everybody into androgynynes.
I cannot speak to that. I do
why
not.
why
I
on
do not
earth?
have a
No. I can speak to this.
master plan. Here, this is you, Matt. This is you.
I can speak to this, John. First of all, I don't give a crap what the Talmud says, but if the Talmud suggests that all trans people want to trans everybody else, do you think that there's any likelihood that everyone who's trans all agrees on what their goals are?
No, I'm just saying what the Talmud says.
Thank you for just debunking the Talmud's claim. So if the Talmud says that's what they all want to do, the Talmud is wrong and false. Can we move on now?
Well, I just wondered if that was what trans people wanted to be, was androgyny.
No. So first of all, you know what trans people, the trans people that I interact with, the individual that I live with, and all of the people who host the shows, who you can call in with and interact with on Thursday, you know what they want most? Respect and to be left the fuck alone.
Okay. That was my basic question.
Cool. I'm glad we answered it. Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
So it's wild because it's not quite the trans type of call that I was expecting, and I don't know. I don't know if Arden's hooked up on a mic yet or not, but have you ever taken a question about the Talmud's take on trans people on TACIS, Arden?
Never. No, we have not had that call. If you want to do it, go for it.
It's absolutely wild, but go ahead. I'm
very interested in this secret plan for all the trans people to trans. What did he say? Androgynize everybody else. Yeah. Arden, is there like a weekly meeting on this, or are we aware of any?
Yeah, that's when we meet up with Antifa and the other violent extremists to discuss. That's a joke for the fucking CIA agent who's probably watching all of these videos and keeping track of us.
Our assigned agent.
We've got a case agent and everything. It's so wild because, first of all, androgyny, from my understanding, I don't know how it's used in biological literature, but in medical literature, it is kind of like akin to ambiguity. And so I would think if any portion of the trans community could be considered androgynous and androgenizing, it would be the non-binary they, them folks, and not so much like a trans woman or a trans man who are acknowledging a binary, because they are not being androgynous. And so, granted, I don't care what the Talmud says, other than evidently when the Talmud says something demonstrably false and absurd, where you can debunk it in one sentence, okay, cool, we can take that one.
I mean, it's probably the most unique call that call statement that I've ever heard with relation to trans people is the relationship to the Talmud and their global agenda, of course.
Arden knows exactly how much you just wounded me by saying most unique.
Oh, sorry. What should I say? Most.
I don't know.
Matt is very particular. Unique has to be one of a kind.
Okay.
He's super triggered by it. Anytime anyone says
nothing can be the most unique. Yeah. Nothing can be very unique. Nothing can be especially unique. It's either fucking unique or it's not. But I do understand the colloquial.
Call.
It triggers me.
Call. No, yes. It's okay.
No, torture him. I do it all the time.
I don't want to use it wrong. Yeah, but the thing is like I didn't know that. So now that I know it, now I'm going to be a pedant about it, and it's going to piss everybody else off. Congratulations, Matt. I'm good to spread the irritation gospel on this.
Also, since Chad is listening, actually Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels just called out he's not feeling well tonight, so Owen Morgan's going to fill him in for him on the late show. So it'll be Owen and Forrest for the late show.
Send out your hugs in chat for Eric. Please get better, my friend. And by the way, you're still in luck because Owen's phenomenal as well. So we're really looking forward to that. Thank you, Arden. We have a call here specifically that might. I'm gonna read what the call screeners wrote, but what it might as well have said is, "Hey, Matt, shut up." I'm joking, kind of, but here we go. Tom from Michigan, pronouncing him. Tom says, "How did humans evolve so fast after the dinosaur extinction?" And now I will shut up.
Hello, Tom. I see that you're wanting me to go on for 45 minutes. Let's chat. Tell me more about your question.
Well, you know, a lot of times when I watch science shows or whatever, they always say humans appeared 2 million years ago, like they just kind of jumped out of the book, whatever. But in the last 2 million years, you know, we really haven't changed. You know, we still have our legs and our arms, and our feet, and, you know, we haven't evolved that much in 2 million years. Yeah, our facial features might have changed a little bit or whatever. Well, we still have our toes and, you know, all that stuff. So how do we evolve so fast over, let's say, 63 million years? Since everything was extinct, you know, when the dinosaurs got extinct, pretty much. How did we evolve all that stuff in 63 million years? And in the last 2 million years, we really haven't changed that much at all. So if you do the math, you know, 33 more times, you know, let's say 2 times 33 would be 66 million. So 33 more times of basically nothing equals almost no change.
Yeah. So, so there are a couple of things that I sort of want to pick out here. One, humans, in the sense that our genus shows up, so genus Homo shows up, that's not 2 million years ago. That's about 2.8 million years ago in the material that we find at Ledigararu. So, you know, add 800,000 years. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really mean anything for your whole question, right? So humans, so humans didn't really evolve any quicker than any other major extant lineage, right? Like, there's some interesting things about humans in our morphology, so in our physical characteristics, that are not found in other mammals, but that is the case for many mammal groups. Like we can find now I'm like so self-conscious about using the word unique. We can find special characteristics that are morphologically constrained to specific groups, and humans are no exception. But there's nothing about the human lineage that is particularly like fast in its evolution or particularly slow in its evolution. Now, in 65, 66 million years of evolution, we're really talking about the origin of our order, which is primates. So the first primates show up 50 to 60 million years ago. And then we start to see more further specialization as we move forward in time, where we get, okay, you know, after the first primates, now we have the first haplorine primates, and then we have the first monkeys, and then we have the first old world monkeys, and then the first apes, and then the first hominins, and so on and so forth. And like, I could sit here and tell you when all of that happens and how it compares to the emergence of other major groups. But suffice it to say, humans are not especially quick in our evolution. Right. We could compare ourselves to whales, right? So like we could look at the emergence of cetaceans, the whales and the dolphins over the course of like the early Cenozoic into the Eocene and Oligocene. Now, evolutionarily speaking, that's relatively quickly. And they're not just changing the way they move, they're committing to a completely different substrate. They're going from the land back to the sea. If you want to talk about fast evolutionary change, that's what I would point to, not to humans. Because as far as humans compared to other apes, there is nothing that we have physically that is fundamentally different from what other apes have, right? Like, we have all the same bones, we have all the same muscles, we have all the same regions of the brain, we have all the same teeth, we have all the same organs, organ systems, everything. So it's like, what we're actually changing are the sizes and shapes of certain things, but nothing fundamentally different is happening over the course of human evolution, physically speaking.
Right, but you're saying 3 million, because now you're saying 2.9, I said 2, you said 2.8. So
call
really,
it 3. Sure.
Okay, we'll call it 3. Okay, right. But if we all came from like single cell, I think evolution says we all came from single cell matter or whatever, starting out. Is that pretty much what you say?
Sure. Abiogenesis is simple single-celled organisms.
Right. So if we haven't really changed in 3 million years and we only had 62 million years to change from a single-cell organism to us, how does that equate? Somewhere we've really jumped into the evolutionary
Tom,
pool or whatever.
We didn't. We actually. Okay, so the first single-celled organism that all life can trace its common ancestry back to didn't live 65 million years ago. It lived 3.8 to about 4.1 billion years ago, right? Like a very, very long time ago is the origin of life. Now, the first, primates lived 65 million years ago, but it's not going to shock you, I imagine, to hear that you have virtually all of the same bones and muscles and organs and organ systems as the most basic primate. In fact, we share most of our bones and organ systems, etc., and muscles with rats, which is why they're used as a model organism. Now, it's not as similar as it is to other apes, but like, we're not talking about a whole scale change here. We're not talking about going from land to sea or from sea to land or whatever, right? Like, the change that you're talking about, like the relatively little change over the past 3 million years, first of all, the change, over the past 3 million years, like the hominins that lived 3 million years ago had a brain case size that was half yours, if not less, right? They had super long arms, curved fingers, right? Enormous teeth, powerful jaws. They walked upright, but they could barely make a tool. I mean, that's the difference between us and hominins 3 million years ago is approximately the same as the difference between a hominin 3 million years ago and an earlier hominin a couple million years prior to that. Right? So, like, again, evolutionary change is occurring at a relatively steady pace in humans. There's nothing aberrant about humans, like, now compared to humans 3 million years ago, as far as the change that has occurred, any more than there is difference between a modern day dog and the canids that lived 3 million years ago, or a modern day snake and the snakes that lived 3 million years ago, right? Like, pick any of them. The change is going to differ a little bit here and there, but humans are not aberrant in this.
Yeah, because a snake's been a snake for what, 5 billion years, hasn't it? Pretty much.
5 million years? Snakes evolved a lot earlier than 5 million years ago.
No, billion would it be? A snake has been a snake since it's been around 5 billion years ago.
No, the first snakes did not ever emerge 5 billion years ago. Life was not around 5 billion years ago.
3 billion or
yeah,
like I don't know.
Yeah. So that's another conversation.
As the person who keeps and breeds and raises snakes, let me point out that
the snake guy here.
Snakes came around somewhere between 145 and 167 million years ago.
Okay. Well,
there you
what
go.
We found probably, I guess. A lot.
Sure.
Depends on what we found at a certain time.
Tom, I could sit here and sort of spit big major morphologic changes for you about human evolution, but I feel like the crux of the issue here is you think that there's something unique going on in human evolution as compared to everything else. There is not, at least insofar as I can tell, right? Like, we experience different pressures, but like fundamental differences, the pace and changes that occur in humans are not unique.
Right. I don't think they probably are, but you're saying that evolution takes about 66 million years to evolve from almost a single cell organism to what we are now? Is that what your case is, or?
No. My case is that evolution can change in its pace depending on the lineage you're looking at, that humans are not unique in the pace that we are on, and that all life can trace a common ancestor to about 3.8 to 4.1 billion with a B years ago, and that all mammals can trace our common ancestor to a critter that lived probably during the Jurassic, and all primates can trace our ancestors back to an animal that lived probably between 50 and 60 million years ago, and we could go down the list if we like. But I think the issue here might come from you might want to flesh out, I think, your sort of basic processes and mechanisms of evolution understanding here in order for us to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to put it all together. I believe evolution happened. I'm just not sure it's exactly because of natural selection. They always say natural selection too. I kind of
So evolution has a couple of different.
We don't really know for sure anyway. So
Yeah, so evolution has a couple of different mechanisms that are all at play to help change populations over time, right? Natural selection is one of them, mutation is one of them, genetic drift is one of them, gene flow is one of them, and there are subsets of some of these as well. But like, again, to go back to the cornerstone of your question, humans have changed a lot in some ways in 3 million years, and in other ways we haven't changed very much. Right? Like, again, it depends on if you talk to a teeth person, they're going to tell you that there are fundamental massive shifts in dentition between 3 million years ago and now. If you talk to a biomechanics person, they're going to tell you that efficiency changes. But fundamentally, all the same bones and muscles and organs and stuff like that are all the same between 3 million years ago and now, as is the case for most lineages of animal, as is the case for dogs or for cats or for deer or for turtles or whatever. Like, most lineages are not going to go through extensive amounts of remodeling and change in 3 million years.
Right, exactly. Like we said, we kind of like the same thing we were 3 million years ago, pretty much. have teeth, have arms, have legs, you know.
In the most basic body plan kind of way, yes.
You know, after the dinosaurs got extinct or whatever, everybody's pretty much destroyed. And it's kind of hard to imagine the jump from that to that in, 65 million years.
When you say everything was destroyed, you realize that there were mammals and other things that continue to live, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and we're their descendants.
Yeah, what was the percentage? I mean, what, 90% or
what
80%?
Difference does a percentage make? Let's say, hang on just a second. Let's say there were that 1% of life on Earth was a mammal, and the other 99% got destroyed. What difference does it make whether that was 1% of the existing or the extant population, or if it was 82% of the extant population? None of that matters. Something happened, right. A portion survived, and we are the descendants of those that survived.
Right. And we had to evolve basically from almost nothing to what we are now.
Well,
from almost nothing. Do you think that it was just singles? Did you not hear me when I said mammals? It's not like it's not like the dinosaurs died out and single cells built humans.
Right. That's where I'm right. I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out just like everybody else. But
no, Tom, it's totally chill.
Talk to an active evolutionist.
Yeah, Tom, it's all good. You're asking great questions, right? If you don't have a background in this kind of thing, it can be super new and intimidating. But like, you can kind of think of it as a filter, right? Like, imagine biodiversity as a company, and every now and again, big layoffs happen. And when these layoffs happen, a bunch of people lose their jobs, and now those jobs need to be filled by something new, right? But some people have been with the company since the beginning. We are the descendants of a lineage that has made it through several major layoffs. But we don't have, when a mass extinction happens, not everybody gets fired. Not every species goes extinct. And so the world is repopulated by the evolution of the lineages that survived those mass extinctions. So for simplicity's sake, you can imagine that a rat-like mammal survived through the mass extinction that killed off the dinosaurs and the marine reptiles and so on and so forth. And that from that rat-like mammal, all modern mammal lineages descend. That's oversimplification and probably not true. There are probably several. I mean, we know for a fact that several lineages of mammals survived through the KPG. Marsupials and monotremes are two others. But the point hopefully stands. It's from that original sort of progenitor mammal that you get deer, and that you get whales, and that you get monkeys, and that you get dogs and cats and humans and bears and raccoons and otters and seals and so on and so forth. And they're adapting to those niches that are left open. Because when the dinosaurs went extinct, that's your major layoff. Now, all of a sudden, there are a ton of jobs that are free real estate. And our mammals can evolve into those niches and fill them in unique ways. Or special ways.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's cool. Because like I said, I'm a little, I know supernatural exists, but I kind of believe in evolution. So I'm a little bit backwards. Most people say, oh, yeah, I believe in God, but I know evolution exists.
This is now is when I can't shut up. I'm sorry. So first of all, knowledge is a subset of belief. So if you know something, you also believe it. But second of all, how is it that you know the supernatural exists? Because I don't.
Right. Well, I went through a supernatural experience. So
how do you know that the experience? How do you know this? How do you know the experience is supernatural? You don't just get to say, "Oh, I know because I know." I mean, you can say that.
I don't like talking about too much.
How did you prove it? How did you prove it to yourself?
Well, basically, you could call God or supernatural. They took control of my life for a few years. And then after the few years, they showed me miracles.
No. From that point, this is so confusing. You just keep asserting that it was supernatural. I'm willing to believe that you had experiences that you think are supernatural. I'm asking how you verified that they're supernatural.
Well, once you see the miracles, then you just trace back and say, well, if there was miracles, it was beyond human.
I'm sorry. Saying that something is a miracle doesn't make it so. I'm still asking you to show how you confirmed that it was in fact a miracle.
Right, because I've seen it. So I know it was a miracle.
So, so the measure for miracles is whether or not you've seen it, right? That's your criteria for whether or not it's a miracle?
And this is, yes, it is.
Okay. That is beyond delusional to suggest that the measure for whether or not something is a miracle is whether or not you personally have seen it. Because you've seen other things that aren't miracles, and you're seeing something and declaring it's a miracle, and you're saying it's a miracle because I've seen it. Do you not see how ridiculous that is?
No, I lived it.
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, you lived it, you know. Congratulations on your delusion.
Well, you can call it that.
Yes, I can. And not only that, I can demonstrate its delusion because I understand sound epistemology and I understand how we go about describing what we know. And I know that not a single professor, right or left, in any epistemology would ever say that the measure of whether or not something is supernatural is whether or not Tom fucking saw it.
Exactly. You're right.
I know I'm right. I didn't need you to confirm it. I didn't need you to confirm it. I need you to think about what you're saying, because you're saying that you know the supernatural exists, but you can't demonstrate to anybody. I would rather you have said, I'm convinced the supernatural exists. I'm strongly convinced, but I have no way of demonstrating to anybody, because then we could say, oh, it's not about whether or not Tom saw it. What is Tom's criteria? And the answer is Tom believes what Tom believes because Tom believes it. That's called circular reasoning. It's fallacious, and it means that your conclusion cannot be warranted at all. And to suggest that you are warranted is definitionally delusional. Or sorry, irrational. Irrational. I can't say delusion.
Well, maybe specific, because I guess nobody knows everything. So I guess saying absolutely knows might be a little bit too much hard,
I didn't say anything about absolutely knows, and I didn't say, and it's irrelevant whether or not anybody can know. Can God know everything?
Yeah, I'm assuming he does, yes. Or
you're assuming he does. How could you tell?
Because they know what I was thinking.
How do you know there's a God that knows what you were thinking? How do you know there's a God that knows what you were thinking?
There's going to be hard one to say. Because I know once they took control, I knew exactly what I was thinking when I started to feel the supernatural take over my existence.
That sentence does not even make sense and is not a response to my question. My question.
So, because I know what I was thinking.
Okay. Do you know what they were thinking, and who is they that took you over?
Well, supernatural.
Okay. Supernatural is not a they. You're saying they took you over. Who took you over, and how do you know it was them?
Right. No, I guess you just had to live it, I guess. But.
Okay. If I had lived it, does that mean that if I reached the same conclusion you did, that conclusion would be rational?
Yes.
You're wrong. Because until you've ruled out delusion, you cannot say that the position is rational. And until you stop arguing fallaciously, it is definitely not rational. So even if I'd had the exact same experience that you had, it would not be rational for me to reach the conclusion you had. The best I could do is say, I experienced something and I don't know what it was.
Yeah, but that's hard to say, though.
I know it's hard to say, but you got to buck up and learn to say it, soldier.
Right, I hear you.
Because it's the truth, right? I don't know is the right answer most of the time. And especially if all you're saying is, you're just describing, I had this experience and I don't know what else to call it other than this. And that's 100% fine as long as you're not asserting that you're correct about that. That's where the problem comes in. We all have weird experiences. We all have things that we can't understand. And some of us will leap to conclusion and go, God, that was so weird. I mean, it's almost, I swear that had to be like a ghost last night. Or I swear that person's psychic and they can read my mind. Or I knew I was just about to call them and they called me. Therefore, there must be some psychic connection. People do that all the time. What we're asking is whether or not anybody can demonstrate it. Thank you for acknowledging that you can't. But then the follow-up question is kind of like a food for thought thing, which is, why do you persist in believing something that you acknowledge you can't demonstrate to anybody else and that you haven't ruled out the possibility of delusion on your end? Wouldn't it just be better to say, I had a weird experience, don't know what it was?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, right? I mean, a little bit of delusion might be, like I say, nobody's 100%. I shouldn't have said 100%. So I made a mistake there.
I'm listening to you, Tom, and because I've done this for so long, I'm going to be especially nice. Nobody said anything about 100% but you. Right. Your confidence level in your conclusion doesn't have to be anywhere near 100% for it to be a problem. If you are willing to engage in irrational beliefs on subject A, there's nothing stopping you from applying that to subject B as well. And when called out on it, your defense mechanism is to be, well, nobody's perfect. I'm not, nobody suggested anybody was perfect. I don't think absolute certainty exists. Exactly. But when you are called out for irrationality and your defense is, yeah, but nobody's perfect. Well, congratulations. We already knew that. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm not even expecting it. I'm just pointing out that you're willing to knowingly engage in irrational positions and assert confidence in them that isn't warranted just based on, yeah, I might be wrong, but nobody's perfect. Don't you think those beliefs dictate what kind of actions you're going to take?
Yeah. But
don't you think that your actions have consequences for yourself and others?
Oh, absolutely. They do.
Cool. So wouldn't it make sense to make sure that your beliefs are justified before you start taking actions based on them that are going to impact other people's lives and yours?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't really take any actions on what I know or what I see.
Don't? You don't? So you think there's a supernatural realm? Do you think there's a God?
Well, I consider the supernatural to be God. So
okay. What does the supernatural want?
I don't know.
Well, you suggested that the supernatural took you over and knew what you were thinking and is therefore some sort of thinking agent, right?
Right.
Why did it do that?
To be continued, I guess, on that one.
Okay. Here's my last question in the food for thought category on this. Let's imagine that somebody else had a similar experience to you and they're convinced that it's supernatural and they are wrong. And in fact, they have a psychological condition that is potentially treatable. But because you and others are convinced that you're right, you add gravitas and pseudo credibility to their delusion. So now they don't seek treatment, and you might also be delusional and also not seek treatment. Is that a better world or a worse world?
Well, that's fair to say.
That's my whole point. Erika?
I'll add to this, Tom. I thought it was interesting that you said, you know the supernatural exists, but you're leaning towards evolution, and we can just say that that's any conventional science. Yeah, I think that probably there. I want you to take that attitude and apply it to the supernatural, right? Like I want you to take why is it that you think that you think evolution probably happened, but you can't be sure. It's like, well, the reason is probably because evolution isn't your background, and you don't have the background in it to say for sure one way or another yet. And I, my hope is that you'll be so interested in evolutionary theory, you'll go out and read into it, and then you'll be like, actually, I'm pretty dang sure that this did happen, because you'll be so informed at that point. But take that skepticism. Yeah, take that skepticism. Take that skepticism, apply it universally, and I would encourage you to look at evolution or any science that you're pretty sure of, but you're not quite positive, and investigate like why are other people so sure of it? Like why are we so confident in evolutionary theory as something that explains biodiversity? Why are we so sure that the Earth is round? Why are we so sure that vaccines work? Why are we so sure about anything in science? And what you'll find is that the reason we're so sure is because this is an idea that we have, as I said earlier on this show today, thrown everything at the kitchen sink at to try to disprove and have come away empty-handed. The idea still stands firm no matter how we try to disprove it. And the idea makes testable predictions that then come to fruition. And as I said earlier in the show as well, make our lives materially better, right? So anytime somebody is like skeptical about evolution or any science, my advice is, okay, like go disprove it, right? Or like go investigate it and see what you think and figure out why people are so confident in it. And then as Matt sort of walked you through, if you find that attitude to be useful, and I know you will, because that attitude is useful. It's demonstrably useful. It's how we move forward as a society, by testing all these different ideas out and seeing which ones work. Take that attitude and apply it to more areas of your life, including this idea of the supernatural. And maybe you come away from it, and you're like, actually, I do stand firm in this idea. Or maybe you come away from it and you're like, maybe it wasn't supernatural, right? But you'll at least come away knowing that you investigated it with the same sort of vigor that you would anything else in your life. And I think that's all Matt and I are asking. That's all I'm asking.
Oh, I get that.
Is that fair? Cool. Is that fair enough, do you think?
Say that again?
I say, is that fair enough, do you think?
Oh, that's fair enough. Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks so much, Tom. I appreciate the talk.
Okay.
Cheers. By the way, if you appreciated Tom's call and everything else, you should like and subscribe. If you liked anything about any of these calls, you should definitely like and subscribe. There are thousands of people watching right now, and only a few hundred of you who have actually clicked like and possibly subscribed. And if you want to send a message to the tyrannical, fascist, authoritarian government with Representative Higgins from Louisiana and others trying to tell YouTube that they should shut things down or ban people based on what the government does or doesn't approve, one of the best ways you can do that is to click like right fucking now to let them know that, unlike Colbert and Kimmel, you value us and would rather that we not get canceled by a private corporation falling prey to and bending the knee to the fascist will of the government. If you don't click like right now, you're a fascist. I mean, you're pretty much a fascist if you don't click like. I'm just saying. Not my rules. All right.
You're just spitting truth.
Speaking of rules, here we go. Hakeem is theist calling from Alabama, pronouns are him. Hakeem wants to know, how can the laws of the universe be established without an intelligence? How are you, Hakeem?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Good. How are you all doing?
I'm exhausted, but I did spend some time thinking about your question, and your question is, how can the laws of the universe be established without an intelligence, right?
Yes, sir. But I wanted to ask you a question first before you answer that.
No. Why? Okay, fine. Go ahead. Ask me the question before I give you the obvious answer.
Okay, sure. Why do I keep getting blocked out of your chat every time I post one question every week? Why?
I don't know. I'm not involved in the chat. I don't know what you're posting. I don't know who's blocked you. But if you're there every week, I'm sorry, Hakeem. I'm fucking talking, which means you're not, right? Cool. So if you're posting the same thing every week, you're not getting blocked, because block's permanent unless you're coming back on a sock puppet account over and over again. But we don't have any reason to worry about what you were posting or why or anything else. I'm ready to answer your question. Would you like it answered?
Can I talk now? I got to get your permission first, of course.
I'm sorry, Hakeem. I literally just asked you if you would like me to answer your question, and your response was, can I talk now? Can you listen now?
I'm listening. I know I listen very well. But since you want to be a smart ass about me telling you what my question was, because you asked.
I bet you're not. So I'm going to mute you, and you can sit here and listen, Hakeem. And if you run away because you think I'm a smart ass, that's fine. I'm still going to answer it, because your question deserves an answer. And it is a fourfold easy answer. Hakeem's question is, how can the laws of the universe be established without an intelligence? Now, I'm going to get to that. But the first question is, how can they be established with an intelligence? You see, even if we don't know how it could happen without an intelligence, that doesn't mean that you are justified in thinking that it required an intelligence. That is a fallacy. That is saying, I can't think of any way this could happen other than this, therefore this is the right answer. And in this case, it's doubly fallacious, because it's shifting the burden of proof, where you're going to accept that it's an intelligence until somebody proves that it's not, when nobody has demonstrated or made any effort to demonstrate either that an intelligence could do it or that an intelligence is required to do it. So it's a fallacy to say that if we don't know how it could happen without an intelligence, that therefore it must be an intelligence, because we don't know everything. That's like saying, if we can't explain how lightning comes about without Thor, then it must be Thor. That is a fallacy. Now, the second part, which is what I addressed first, is we don't have any understanding of how it could be done with an intelligence. It's just a bold assertion that there is some scenario under which a brain, an intelligence, could do this. But the big deal here is this: the laws of the universe, the foundational laws of physics, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, these things, the laws of the universe in that sense are descriptive and not prescriptive. When we talk about, for example, the speed of light, it's not like there's a cosmic speed limit sign out there that says, "Thou shalt not travel faster than this." That would be prescriptive. We are prescribing the limit. Descriptive just means, hey, light can only go this fast with this, as far as we've observed it. And until we get new information, that seems to be the limit and the fastest that anything can actually travel. The speed of light describes the limit. There's no cosmic speed limit sign. The laws of the universe all are descriptions of physical reality. They are not governing laws, like, the First Amendment protects right to free speech until the fascists take over. There are laws that, for example, it's illegal for me to light a fire in my backyard right now. It is illegal. That is a prescriptive law that says you will not do this or you will face a penalty. A descriptive law says basically that if you combine water and vinegar, you don't get fire. It's just describing the way it is. It's not saying it has to be that way. So there's no reason to think that any of the way the universe works was necessarily prescribed or dictated by a thinking intelligence. That is about as full of an answer to your question as I could get. I'm going to unmute you now so you can say thank you and then continue with whatever else you wanted to say. So here we go.
Okay, I just believe that everything you said was bullshit. They are governing laws.
Okay, I'm going to mute Hakeem again. So, Hakeem, you're a prime example of when I would have lost my shit once upon a time, and I'm now above it. Because you asked a question that's important, and it represented a couple of fundamental misunderstandings about both what we mean by laws and how the physical properties of the universe, we are describing them, and we use the laws label. Not all laws are the same thing. There's not a government over the universe saying, here's the speed limit, don't cross it. And so I went through a multifaceted explanation that I'd be willing to bet money dozens of other sincere inquirers would be grateful to have a summary that thorough and succinct. And your response is to come back and say, you think everything I said was bullshit. Well, Hakeem, I didn't ask you what you thought about what I said. But thank you. Thank you very sincerely for acknowledging that you don't care about the truth or accuracy or reality, that you did not actually want an answer to your question. You probably, I'm suspecting, just wanted to come in and whine and pretend that I'm a smartass. Well, I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass. And you probably wanted to come in and complain about how you're trolling or spamming in chat and our mods aren't putting up with it. Well, all right. I'm going to take a step back now, Hakeem. And rather than listening to me as the uneducated oaf spouting bullshit, I'm going to let my brilliant co-host address whatever you say next and whatever questions you have, whether they're about those laws or anything else. Because you can't get to me. You won't listen to me, but I'm not here for your benefit. You are here as a tool for me to use to teach people who are willing to learn, which you are not. But I'm going to let you try to have a conversation with Erika if she's willing.
I'll give it a go. Hakeem, cool. We're going to pivot.
You are now on with Erika.
We're going to kind of pivot a little bit.
I heard a whole bunch of everybody just gonna talk, but except for the caller, huh? Everybody just gonna keep talking except for the caller. That's how y'all work.
Are you familiar with how a call-in show works? Like, have you seen this show before?
I haven't been able to say anything. I just heard the last caller say all kind of shit.
That's not what I asked. I asked if
you can show me on the wall where the last caller touched.
I can't say anything. He's doing all the saying, and now I've got to hear you doing all the saying.
Hakeem, I asked you a question. I asked if you'd seen the show before, and you started screaming at me.
Yes, I have seen the show before, ma'am. I have seen the show before. This man is talking about speed limits. We're not in cars. We're talking about this universe. We're not talking about a car and speed limits and speed science. We're not talking about that. Okay? We're not. For a fact, we have established governing laws throughout this universe. Matt is telling a lie when he said they're not governed. They are governed laws throughout this universe. That is a fact.
Give an example of this fact.
That is a fact. I'll give you a quick example. I can give you a quick example.
Can you stop? Hakeem, can you calm down?
I'm about to
Hakeem, Hakeem, can you calm down and stop yelling when you're presenting this?
I'm very calm.
No, sir, you're not. No, sir, you're not. No, sir, you're not. I need you to take a fucking breath.
This man ain't never seen me hype, but he's saying I need to calm down. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, you do need to calm down. You are literally screaming at my co-host who did not ask you. Listen to you. Listen to you, Hakeem. Listen to you, Hakeem. I hope you get some fucking anger management treatment very soon.
I'm not here to scam you, man. I'm here to have a reasonable conversation with you, man.
No, sir, you're not. That's a complete lie. That is a complete lie. You are absolutely.
How can we have
you are absolutely not here to have an honest conversation. You, sir, are a liar.
I am.
You're a liar.
I am.
You're a liar.
No, you're a liar. You are a liar. You won't allow me to talk.
You're a liar.
The last time I called you, you wouldn't allow me to talk.
You're
Every
a liar.
time I call you, your whole job is to hijack my phone call. That's what you keep trying to do.
Your fucking phone call. You're a liar.
You don't want the truth to get out. You don't want the truth to get out.
I'm sorry. We keep
Anybody in
asking
their
you
right mind
questions.
believe that you want God to exist is just delusional.
How can
I didn't say anything. Why don't you answer Erika's questions? I'll shut up again.
Good.
Hakeem, I don't understand. I don't understand how Matt could hijack the phone call when you called this show.
Yes, I called this show. Yes, to have a conversation, ma'am. Do you understand that? Not to just hear this man preach. I didn't call to hear this man preach. I did not call your show to hear him preach. I
don't understand that. I don't understand that because you said you've seen the earlier calls
He's
today.
He's just preaching to me and giving me his false beliefs. He don't want us to do that, but he's allowed to do it.
I don't know what to do with that, Hakeem. I think he was just trying to answer your question, and you got really mad. And you're giving.
That's not true. That's not true. He's called things that I said bullshit, but I can't call what he say bullshit.
I'm sorry.
Think he called what you said bullshit.
I didn't say you couldn't call it bullshit. I said I didn't care if you thought it was bullshit. Why can't you tell the truth about what happened?
No. That's not what
it's all recorded. You realize this is being. You realize it's being recorded and broadcast over the internet. Why do you keep lying, Hakeem? Hakeem, why do you keep lying? You know you're being recorded. You know we're just going to turn you into a clip. We're going to turn you into a clip, and we're going to make a fuck ton of money off how ridiculous you are.
You called what I said about.
I'm sorry. Here we go. Yes, I've said things that you said were bullshit, and you said that what I said was bullshit today. I didn't say you couldn't say it was bullshit. I said I don't give a fuck if you think it's bullshit. I'm going to keep schooling you whether you want to learn or not. You keep calling in with ridiculous things, and I'm going to keep educating the other people who are willing to listen while you scream and whine like a little bitch. Here we go.
So curious.
Let's try it again.
Yeah. I think he was talking.
You better hang up.
I didn't hang up, you dumb fuck. Here, hang on. Let me mute you again because I didn't hang up on you, and yet you think that I hung up, and you're going to say you better hang up, dumb fuck. Who's the dumb fuck? to talk while they haven't been hung up on. But even if you thought you had been hung up on, you were still talking to me as if I mean, you got to be pranking me now, Hakeem, because nobody's as stupid as this. Nobody's as stupid as this.
Come on the scene, denying them.
He's still going. He's still going.
Oh my God. Hakeem was muted the entire time. And just sitting there yelling. Here, let's take a breath. I'm gonna put Hakeem back in the queue for a second. Hakeem, we'll get back to you as long as you don't run away. I would like to try and reboot with Hakeem. I would like to try and reboot with Hakeem. Listen, I'll put you back on in just a minute. Hakeem, I'm willing to pretend that you and I have never spoken before. I'm willing to pretend that you're an honest interlocutor seeking to get answers to questions. And so now I'm going to take your call as if you were brand new. Please listen. Nobody can hear you right now. You're still in the queue. I want to make it very clear, put you in the queue. I'm going to put you back on. I'm going to welcome you to the show. I'm going to act as if you've never called in before. And you will get the opportunity to say, hi, I'm Hakeem, and I'm calling about this. And we will ask you questions, and you will be able to present things, provided you don't yell, you don't lie, and you don't bring up the past. So, Hakeem, I'm going to ask you right now, I'm bringing you on, are you willing to do that?
Yes.
Cool. Hakeem, welcome to the show. Hakeem's calling from Alabama. Pronouns are he, him. Hakeem, what's on your mind today that you want to talk about?
I wanted to ask you is how can we have established governing laws throughout this entire universe without an intelligence? Because we as human beings in our society, we have established laws by way of the human beings having an intellect. It's the only way we can get them here.
I'm sorry.
So I'm asking you, how can...
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was wondering, could you give an example of a type of law that you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Night and day. Every day.
Night and day is a law? I'm not aware of a night and day law.
Wait a minute. Have you seen it done otherwise? Do otherwise?
Are you saying, so do you know why we experience night and day on Earth?
Yes, sir. I know the process. If that's what you're going to explain to me, I know the scientific process.
Okay. So is there some law that says...
Okay, go ahead. I'm
sorry.
No, my fault. That's my fault. Go ahead.
I got you. You said that night and day is an example of the law. What is the law of night and day? Because I don't know of any law of night and day.
That it must turn night and it must turn day.
Where did you come up with that law, and where does it apply? Because does it turn night and day, for example, on the sun?
No, sir, it don't. We don't live on the sun, Matt. Nobody does.
Right. So this is a law. This is a law that only applies to us here on Earth?
Yes, sir.
So if we were on another planet that orbited a sun, would that planet have night and day?
I don't know, Matt. I don't live on other planets. I live on Earth, Matt. I only can go by what's on Earth, Matt.
I'm sorry, but unfortunately for your case, Hakeem, we in fact know that there are periods of night and day on other planets and on other moons, because we know and can observe how they orbit and how they rotate on their axis. As a matter of fact, we can define how much time in normative Earth time, in our hours, how much time it takes for other planets to experience a full night and day cycle. Are you unaware of that?
We also know some of them don't.
But
right?
Hang on.
Specifically talking.
Hang on, Hakeem. Hang on, Hakeem. You said that you didn't know about other planets because you didn't live there, and then when I described it to you, you said you knew it. So which is it? Did you not know it, or do you know it?
I didn't say I don't know about other planets. I didn't say that. I agree.
You literally did say that.
I agree with you on that.
Hang on.
I said I don't live on other planets.
Okay, Hakeem, I'm going to mute you for a second. You literally did say that. I'm trying to get to understand, what is this law of night and day? Because as someone here on Earth, I experience daytime and nighttime. How would you describe I'm sorry, Erika. Go ahead.
No. I wanted to add one thing before I let you guys continue on this, because I think you guys are having a fruitful back and forth. But it's like, earlier Hakee was talking about laws, and if memory serves, he used the word universal laws, or implied that these are laws that are at play in the universe. As an example, he talked about night and day, but not all planets that orbit suns do have night and day. Like, he was cool with the sun, right, not having a night and day, because it is the sun. But like, some planets are tidally locked, so they don't have a night and day. If that's the case, then the law of night and day is not a law that applies across the universe. No, if all planets don't experience a night and day, which I think is a problem, because that's the example that he gave. So now maybe it only applies to Earth, right? But then it's not a law that's at play in the entirety of the universe, as he implied earlier, which I think is kind of important.
Matt, can I talk? I don't know if I can talk about it.
I'm not speaking.
Hello? Yes, Matt said Earth and other planets. Okay. What I am saying the law is the process that make it so. Night and day. It does not change. The process does not change. That is a law. That is an established law. The process of what makes it night and day. It does not change.
Hakeem, how long is a daytime period?
24 hours.
Really? So if you're up by the North Pole, you're going to have a 24-hour period that's 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night?
Matt, I live in Alabama. I have a 24-hour day, Matt.
I'm sorry, Hakeem. I don't recall asking where you lived. You said that it was a 24-hour period and that it's a law. And I'm saying that in a 24-hour period, would you let me finish?
Sure. I didn't know I was cutting you off. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Depending on where you are on Earth and what time of year it is, the amount of daytime you experience and the amount of nighttime you experience changes. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Then why did you say that it was the same and unchanging, when literally the amount of daytime that you experience where you are in Alabama, where I am in Texas, where my friends are in Canada, up at the North Pole, changes as the seasons change based on the axial tilt? There are places on Earth where there are periods of time where you will have sunlight for 24 hours straight. Are you ready to concede that there's no such thing as a law of night and day, and that night and day are not fixed lengths?
Yes. I can. If you're going to let me talk and explain it, can I explain it?
I'm sorry. What is there for you to explain other than you were wrong?
Okay. My explanation is this: the process that it takes to give us night and day, does that break? That's what that's where the law lies.
Yes, Hakeem.
Does that process break? Yes or no?
Hakeem, I don't know why you're yelling. I don't know why you're yelling. You asked a question. I'm going to answer it now. Yes, the thing that you're calling a law isn't a law. The amount of time that daylight takes at different points in the Earth changes. It changes over the course of a year, and it will eventually change entirely as things wind down. There is no dictum or flat fixed state of day or nighttime experience. Now, the thing that you're talking about, Hakeem, is what causes the day-night cycle, and that is based on the rate of spin that the Earth does on its axis. That determines how fast the sun appears to move across the sky. It determines how long a particular. I don't care what you're aware of. I'm still talking, rude guy.
Okay.
The thing that we're saying here is that the Earth is spinning on its axis, and because of that, that spin and its angle relative to the sun determines how much daylight and how much nighttime a particular spot on Earth is going to get. That changes. It's not the same now as it was 20 million years ago, and it's not the same as it will be 20 million years in the future, which is why we have to keep adjusting clocks. So the thing you're describing as a universal law, which Erika already pointed out isn't universal, is not only not that, it's not even constant on Earth, and it is not a guideline. We are describing what we observe from the rate of spin and calling it day and calling it night. There's no law of the universe that says, this is day, this is night, here's how long they shall be. And now I'm done.
Hakeem, is it possible that what you were kind of going for here wasn't a law of day and night, but that you're talking about like laws of physics which are at play in things like... No,
I am talking about laws. Okay. I am talking about laws, and there's gobs of them. I just named one. Another one. All the planets swimming in their own orbit around the sun.
Hakeem,
that law,
Hakeem,
they do not break
Hakeem,
that law that they have to do that.
Hakeem,
that law.
You say they're. You say they're.
Something.
I know. I'm so absolutely not sorry to interrupt you, but you said there are gobs of these laws. We asked you for one. The one you presented is not a law. We would need you to present some other new law for us to study. I'm sorry.
I just was doing that. I was just doing that.
Well, you were ignoring Erika's question, and you're getting louder and pretending as if we didn't just debunk. You're pretending as if we. Okay. You're still going to just keep talking over me. It's absolutely absurd. You're terrible at this.
You asked for another law. I've been listening to you the whole time, Matt.
No, sir. What do you want me to do? Sir. I'm sorry that as part of a multi-sentence thing, I pointed out that we were trying to get you, we would need a new law from you. I actually didn't ask you the question yet because I was still talking, because we debunked your first example. We would like you now. We would like you now. Please stop talking. We would like you now to give us your best example, because if we debunk your best example, then it's pretty clear you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. The planets.
Yep.
Swimming in their own orbits. All these planets swimming. He's cutting me off again.
I'm asking you for clarification on swimming. Okay, Hakeem, I'm going to mute you for just a second. There's a delay. I know he's going to be pissed, and there's nothing I can do about it. Hakeem, there's a delay, and when you use unscientific, ambiguous language that does not fit with any reasonable scientific understanding of things, I need to get clarification of what you mean, because the planets are not fucking swimming in anything. The planets in our solar system orbit the sun, and they orbit at different rates, but they're not swimming. So what is the law that you're getting to? I just only said swimming because swimming doesn't apply to what the planets.
Sure. No problem. I get it. That was an analogy of the motion of them. Okay, fine.
If we're talking about laws, let's get to it.
The planets orbiting around the sun is a law
Hakeem,
that they do not break.
Hakeem, please stop yelling at us. Please stop yelling at us. All I did was
it's passion, not yet.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again because I don't need you saying sure. All I did was ask you to give us your best law. And you immediately dialed it up to about 8.5, 9 instantly to tell us that the planets don't break their orbits. So I'm going to ask you a question. Is it possible for a planet orbiting a sun to stop orbiting that sun?
When you unmuted me, the beat cut out one of the words. Can you repeat the question while I'm unmuted?
Sure. Yes. Is it possible for a planet that is orbiting a star to stop orbiting that star?
When you say a star, are you referring to our sun?
No, I'm referring to yes, our sun is included because you're aware that our sun is a star, right?
That's why I asked you.
No. I'm saying, are you aware that the sun is a star?
Yes, sir. That's why I asked you.
Are you aware that the Earth is a planet and Saturn is a planet, etc.? Are you aware that there are other planets orbiting other stars in the universe?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So you just asserted that it seems that you were saying it's impossible for a planet to stop orbiting a star. And I'm saying, are you aware that it's not impossible and that in fact it does happen?
But that's not what I told you.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I said the planets orbiting around our sun does not break that orbiting. That's what I said. The planets of our solar system.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you, Hakeem, because I'm sick of you fucking yelling at us. You are definitely backed into a corner of scientific ignorance of epic proportions. And you are being not only unreasonable, but Erika and I are trying to come up with the questions that help perhaps you, but at least other people who might be similarly confused about this. The fact that the planets orbiting our sun have not yet left their orbit does not mean that it doesn't happen, and it does not mean that it cannot happen, and it does not mean that it will not happen. Just like the fact that you haven't made sense yet doesn't mean that you won't make sense the next time you try. But you've now presented two things that you think are laws, neither of which is a scientific law, and instead they are both descriptive of localized order. That's what you're describing. The planets orbiting our sun is a description of localized order here. That state can change, both from external influence and there, for example, the Earth is getting slower and slower. And as gravity controls these motions, there's a timeline. And at some point, our sun will cease to be. And at some point, things orbiting our sun will stop orbiting our sun. As a matter of fact, plenty of things that orbited our sun at one point, not planets that we know of, no longer orbit our sun. And there's no reason to think that that wouldn't be possible for planets. But we've asked you for multiple examples now. We've gone through two examples of what you say are laws that are governing, prescriptive laws. Neither of your examples are a scientific law. Neither of your examples are anything more than a description of what happens. So, I'm going to unmute you again for the final time, because I don't want to mute you again. Please stop yelling at us. If you can't handle the fact that you keep coming up with bad examples, that's your problem. It's not us being mean to you. I didn't call you, and I certainly didn't call you with bad science. So let's try again. We've got two of your examples of laws down. I have a question for you that might resolve this if you're willing. Are you willing?
I heard question that might resolve this, and then I heard willing, but it beat
Are you willing to consider the question? Is what I'm saying.
Yes, I want to elaborate on what you said towards my question.
No, I'm sorry, Hakeem. You're not listening. I literally just said, I'd like to ask you a question that might resolve this. Are you willing to do that? I didn't ask you if you want to elaborate.
Yeah,
you are done. You are done elaborating. Okay. All I asked you. Okay. Here, I'm going to mute you because you are incapable of having a conversation. Whew. I had a question that I think would have summed up exactly what's gone wrong here. And it's not just about Hakeem doesn't know science. It is, you are seeing what you perceive as regular localized order, specifically within our solar system. You are looking at planets orbiting, and you are reaching the conclusion that the only or possibly best explanation for why our solar system works the way it does is because there's a God. But what you're describing is exactly what Erika asked you if you were describing about 20 minutes ago, when she asked you if you were describing the laws of physics. The laws of physics are descriptive laws that tell us how the universe appears to operate. And so you seem to be looking at the universe and concluding that the best explanation for why our solar system appears to move the way it does is because there is a God. Is that an accurate description of what you're trying to say? That you look at the solar system and you see orderly movement, and you think that it is reasonable to conclude that the reason for this orderly movement is a God. Is that accurate?
No, sir, it's not.
Okay, then I give up.
I can tell you where I got it from, because I didn't. It's not what you said it's from.
Go ahead.
I've completely given up. I'm now playing chess. You can say whatever you want.
Okay. In the Quran that I read, that I get my information from, okay, God in the book, please don't cut me off, says that he created the planets in our solar system, and they swim in their own orbit for a time appointed. That's one of the laws that he established in his universe. He said they abide by his law for a time appointed. So when I, as a human being, observe our solar system, and I observe the movement of the planets in our solar system, I'm 53 years old. And before me, and before my mom and dad, before them, and keep going, that has not changed. The orbiting of them has not changed.
So you are factually wrong, as I've already demonstrated.
But what you said, Matt.
I'm sorry, you fucking coward. I'm talking now.
You cut me off from talking.
You goddamn right I did, because it's my fucking show, and you will not get to say another fucking word on it today.
So when I do talk, how long do I get to talk?
When I say you're not going to say another fucking word on the show today, that means you're not saying another fucking word on the show today. You can hang up, you can whine, you can run away like a little coward if you want to, but I'm done schooling you and putting up with your horse shit. You are looking at the world and saying it is described and seems to function as the Quran describes, but the Quran isn't a law, it's a claim of a law. It's not a demonstration of a law, it is a claim of a law. You don't get to say there is a law because the Quran says something and that makes it fucking true. You are factually, demonstrably, absurdly, stupidly wrong in epic fucking proportions. And no matter how many times we've gone through and explained this and tried to help you and tried to guide you through this, you persist on being monstrously, stupidly wrong. You have completely busted my zen. Erika and I have sat here and tried to teach you science, tried to bend over fucking backwards to get you to acknowledge that what you're describing is, hey, the universe works in an orderly fashion. I think that a God is the best explanation for why the universe works in an orderly fashion. But you persist in either being absolutely fucking clueless or willfully ignorant or dishonest as all fuck. At this point, I no longer care which one it is because I'm done talking to you. Thank you for calling, Hakeem. Thank you for almost trying to participate in an almost half-assed attempt at a reasonable interaction, but you have failed. You have failed miserably. You have done nothing and said nothing of any substance or any sense. I award you no points for effort. You are a waste of everybody's time with every single fucking thing you tried to say today. Please don't ever call me again, but feel free to call Erika or any of the other co-hosts who might actually be interested in engaging with you, because I'm done doing all of your fucking homework for you, only to have you talk about the Quran. The Quran is a fantasy book dictated or inspired by a pederast that makes claims about the way the universe works that seem consistent with some observed facts to some people, in part because those people already observed things and were trying to describe why they work that way. They looked around and said, why does it work this way? And their answer was, because that's what Allah wanted. And then you come along, and despite centuries of scientific progress and learning that have led us to the point where some of us actually do know about other planets and other solar systems and how they work. Some of us do know that a day-night cycle isn't 12-12, and it isn't 12-12 everywhere, and it isn't 12-12 all the time, and a 24-hour cycle isn't the same all the time, and it's not even exactly 24 hours. We come with approximations, and things are winding down. But you want to claim that there's a law that governs everything without error, without change. It was the same when your grandparents were alive. Hey, I'm going to stop here because I have one question for Erika. In the grand scheme of the cosmos, what fraction of it represents the period of time between Hakeem's grandmother and now?
If you wanted to put it into a year, Hakeem's grandmother and now would fit within the last 5 seconds on December 31st. Really within the last 1 second.
Yeah. I mean, human beings as the entire species, if you held your arm out, this is one of my favorite examples, and you started at the center of your body at the beginning of time as we understand it, and went out to the end of your arm, everything you know from every person who's ever existed would come off by trimming your fucking fingernail. And in that little space is everyone or everything you've ever loved, everything that's ever mattered, every religious zealot, and every righteous, worthy idea. You want to talk about the order in the universe? You want to talk about the glory of humans? We are apes. We are animals. And yet we are spectacular. And yet we're not at all special. Everything has its own special niche. We are the beings that evolved to fit this niche, in part because we have a great brain, and the key to it is communicating, not just being able to think. Thinking itself doesn't broaden the world, it's communicating that makes this worth it. It's the reason that Erika and I are here over and over and over, because we want to communicate, but we mostly want to communicate with people who also want to communicate and not throw a fit about the smart ass who wants to preach at them. I didn't call you, and I never will. We have one more call for today. This should be good. Jonathan's calling from New York, pronouns are he, him. Jonathan, you have a question for us, which I will. Who are you talking to?
Oh, wait, I'm live now?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Tell us about your question,
I'm sorry,
Jonathan.
Jonathan, what's up?
Oh, wait, did you ask me something, or?
Oh my God! Here, let me try this again. Let me mute you. Let me take you off mute. All right. So our final caller for today's show is Jonathan from New York. Pronouns are he, him. Jonathan has a question for us. How are you, Jonathan? What's your question?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Worn the fuck out.
We've been better.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, I think my question was why you don't believe in God, and if it was just due to a lack of evidence, or if there's any evidence that you think would convince you.
I've answered this 53,000 times, so I'm just going to let Erika take it.
No, I think that's a great question. Yeah, Matt has answered this a lot. Yeah, I mean, for me, I identify as an agnostic or agnostic atheist, whatever you want to call me, because I don't see any evidence for a God, and I like to believe things that I see evidence for. So for me, I think that if I saw evidence that God existed, that could come in many different forms. Obviously, it would depend on which religion, if any, we were looking at. I would be convinced. Evidence could come in many ways. I think it could be empirical. It could be confirmation of the supernatural or natural events within the related holy book. It could be a personal, enormously influential experience. I'm willing to accept the fact that that's how a lot of people are convinced. If God showed up to me and could prove they were God, which is another completely different rabbit hole to go down, we'd have to go down a series of questions to confirm that were the case. If I could be convinced, right? So I don't really think it's that more complicated than that. I would like to see evidence for the existence of whichever God in question we're talking about.
Okay, I think that's pretty reasonable. So then you don't think it would be unreasonable for someone to believe in God then if they had like a very strong personal experience?
I understand why they believe in God because they have strong personal experiences. But I think that, as we discussed with another caller today, you would have to know that was from God, and you would have to go through several different lines of questioning to prove that were in fact God. But I do understand, as Matt's example before was, how do you know if you've had this personal experience that it was God instead of aliens or a psychic or, an interdimensional power being or whatever. Right? Like, you'd need to narrow it down to God, and you'd need to know how you could actually differentiate between those various hypotheses to confirm that it was God. But what I'm saying is, I understand why people do find that convincing. That has not happened to me. And if it were me, if I did have an experience like that, I would want to go down that line of questioning to actually isolate the hypothesis that it was God or a God specifically to make that, to confirm that.
Okay. So what do you think that line of questioning would look like? I mean, it would probably take a long time to explain. I don't know if you want to.
It really wouldn't. Matt already went over it earlier today, right? I mean, you would have to ask the question, okay, like let's say I wake up in the middle of the night and I have a vision, and in my vision, a light being comes to me and says, Erika, I'm God, believe in me. My next question is, okay, how do I know you're God? You see what I mean? And we'd have to go, like, as opposed to an alien sending me that vision, or a spirit sending me that vision, or Matt, the superpowered psychic, sending me that vision. And that's a hard question to then go through and answer because, and this is me always gassing up methodological naturalism, we don't have a prior set of expectations for all of those various hypotheses to explain what would explain my vision. Does that make sense?
A little bit. I think I'm kind of confused. Like, or do you?
It could
do
be
you
that
know,
I'm
like?
explaining it badly too.
Sorry, what?
I was just saying it could be that I could be explaining it badly too.
Oh, I don't know. I was just wondering. So, like, if you could maybe answer. I don't know if you tried to answer. I didn't catch it, maybe. But like, you're saying you would have to go through a process to rule out that wasn't like aliens or anything else. So, like, I'm kind of trying to understand what would that process look like. How could you rule that out?
This is Matt's bread and butter, and he's raising his hand, so I'll pitch it to him.
So here's my answer, Jonathan, which I've cultivated over 20 years. Actually, I've been saying the same thing for probably at least 15 of those 20 years. There's a variety of different proposed gods, everything from non-interventionist deistic notions, which I find completely useless, because if you think you've detected a deistic God, you've detected what you're defining as undetectable, which makes your claim absurd. So the only gods we can be talking about when it comes to like the gods of classical theism, the ones that wind up in modern religions, those things are all or incredibly powerful, all or incredibly knowledgeable, etc. And I think what you're asking is what would change my mind about whether or not a God exists, right?
Yeah, sort of like that.
Cool. So my answer is, I don't know. Not only does it depend on the specific claims about a God, but I don't know how to tell the difference between one thing that I don't understand, like a God, and something else that I don't understand, like an incredibly advanced technology or something that's not even advanced, but just a mystery that I don't know. So I don't know what it would take to change my mind. But if there is a God, like the God of classical theism, that being absolutely should know exactly what would change my mind. And that being should be able to do the thing that would change my mind. And because that hasn't happened, either that being does not exist, or that being does not yet want me to know it exists. Either way, it's not my problem. It's God's problem.
Okay. I think I kind of see what you're saying.
I mean, I wish I had a better answer, but I mean, it's gonna depend. I think this is why I keep asking people. I mean, the whole thing is tell us what you believe and why, and the why is the important part, but also why do you think we should believe it? And so when I ask people, hey, you're convinced that a God exists, what convinced you? And inevitably, we find out that they can't offer any sort of empirical evidence. They can't offer a syllogism that is supported by, that is valid and sound as far as we can tell. And inevitably, it gets down to, like, for example, listen to the calls today. It's, oh, I had a personal experience. Okay, cool. I'm willing to believe you had a personal experience. My mom thinks she saw the demon of alcoholism sitting on my grandfather's shoulder. I realize that's not the same as how every Christian thinks the world works, but that's how my mom thought the world worked. It still does. Now, I can't prove that she's wrong. She has made a completely untestable claim, and I didn't have her experience. So all I can do is say, I don't know what happened there, and then evaluate her conclusions and compare that to what we observe in the world. And what we observe in the world is not that. And that doesn't make sense. Why would a demon who has, from my mom's perspective, captured my grandfather's soul, sit on the shoulder and taunt my mom, who also believes that she can, merely by saying Jesus's precious name, make that demon leave? If you were a demon and you had captured my grandfather's soul, wouldn't you just not say anything to anybody? Why would you taunt somebody who could cast you out? This is the absurdity of my mom's position. And her positions go beyond that in the absurd realm as well. Because my mom is proof that the heaven she believes in does not exist. Because in my mom's version of heaven, there can be no sadness. And my mom believes that I will not be in heaven and that she will be. And there's no way that I could be burning in hell or annihilated or wherever else, and my mom not be sad about that. Which means even in her version, whatever ends up in heaven isn't her. It's a facsimile of her. It's an approximation of her, because it's what's been removed from her is her compassion for her firstborn son. And if you suck those things out of people, they're no longer the same people. Just like if you get kicked in the head with a horse and you have completely different personality and memories and stuff like that, you are the same physical package, but as far as a personage, as far as a personality, et cetera, you're not the same. I don't know what other people's views on this are, which is why we do a show asking people to call and defend them.
Okay. So I guess it sounds like the only way, or you're saying you don't know what it would take for you to ever believe in God. It sounds like the only way would be like if you suddenly had a very radical mindset shift, I guess, because like you're saying, if you had some very moving personal experience, you would probably first assume that you're delusional or something.
Well, I can't conclude see, my position is, until such time it's been established that we have good reason to believe we have the right answer is I don't know. And so no matter what the personal experience was, let's imagine that there's a God who showed up right here, right now, and sat down in my lap and looked at me where everybody else could see him as well, just appeared and sat down right here and said, Matt, I'm so sorry that I didn't answer you the 95,000 other times that you desperately reached out to me. Matt, when you were studying to be a preacher and wanted nothing more than to be the best representative of Christ and to do as you're commanded, as I commanded you in 1 Peter 3:15, I'm sorry that I didn't respond to you. Or maybe I'm not sorry. Here's the reason I didn't respond to you. But I'm here to demonstrate to you right now that I'm in fact the creator and governor and sustainer of the universe, who does or doesn't love everybody, and tell you everything you want to know about me. Even with all of us watching, how could any of us conclude that that was in fact God?
I don't think you could conclude, but I feel like if something like that happened, I don't think it would be unreasonable for some people to believe that it was God.
I didn't say that it wasn't understandable. I do think it's unreasonable, because reaching a conclusion requires good reason. And nobody's even demonstrated. When we look at something and we need an explanation for why something is the way it is, we make a list of candidate explanations. And candidate explanations comes from things we know to be possible. Obviously, we can't include things that we don't know about. What reason could anybody present to consider God a candidate explanation for anything?
I mean, I guess it would just be that they don't feel like they're hallucinating. I'm not really sure.
Okay. So if I see fairies out in my garden picking up rat poop, and I don't think I'm hallucinating, is it reasonable for me to consider God as a candidate explanation for that observation?
Maybe if you were like,
I'll make it easier.
Sure.
Is there any scenario where it wouldn't be reasonable to consider God a candidate explanation? So, like, if we come across a dead body, for example, and we're listing what the probable causes or possible causes or candidate explanations for that dead body, is God killed this person? Is that a candidate explanation? And how do we know?
I mean, I think you could always say it's a candidate, but you wouldn't say it's most probable.
I didn't say anything about probable. How did you determine that it's a candidate explanation when you come across a dead body that God killed it? What led you to the possibility that God could kill a body?
I guess just the personal belief that you think anything is possible.
Okay. Is the fairies killing that body a candidate explanation as well?
Maybe.
Is there anything you can think of that wouldn't be a candidate explanation for that?
I'm not really sure.
Yeah, because once you start doing the anything's possible, you must then be consistent and say, therefore, anything is a candidate explanation. And that means that now we have a list of candidate explanations that is endless. And therefore, we have no way to delineate between all the candidate explanations that we can't verify and the ones that we can look at because we understand them to determine which is. So now you know nothing. You have no knowledge. You have no reason, no rationality. It's chaos. And so instead, we say, a fire, my house caught fire. Let's list candidate explanations. Electrical fire, grease fire, somebody lit it intentionally, lightning struck it. We can list a whole bunch of things. Then when we're going through, let's say we came up with 10 things that were candidate explanations to everybody. Now the person down the street says that aliens lighting my house on fire is a candidate explanation. And the person next door to them says, no, God lighting my house on fire is a candidate explanation. And everybody has their own view in the realm of anything's possible. And they all offer up their candidate explanations when some of them definitely can't, like two of them aren't both candidates. You don't get to say that something is a candidate explanation unless you can demonstrate that it's a candidate. And you don't demonstrate that something is a candidate by just saying, you haven't proved it doesn't exist yet. You haven't proved it's not a candidate. That is a fallacy. And so I'm trying to avoid fallacies.
This is how we behave functionally, right? Like, I mean, if we want to navel gaze, we can say technically, if you want to be like an everything's possible or anything's possible rather kind of person, you find a dead body. Like, if you really are an anything's possible kind of guy, it really could be anything. That's not how anybody behaves. That's not how our society actually works. Functionally, our most probable explanations are the ones that are actually on the table. And if you want,
I'm so very sorry. We are about to get completely cut off. We ran up against the time limit.
Oh snap!
No.
I'm so sorry, Jonathan. Please call us back. And by the way, there's another episode of the Sunday Show tonight. In 2 hours, you can call back and talk to other people about all this as well. I appreciate the question, but we have to dump all this now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to our call screener and our moderators. Thank you so much, Erika. We had so much fun today, or I had so much fun today. Please like, subscribe, patreon.com/call-the-line. I'm sorry we ran out of time, but we did.
I wasn't looking at the clock. I never do. I have that effect on people, Matt. When I'm on these shows, we always go over or we run out of time. Because I can't shut the hell up.
Unfortunately, we got to the shows. We'll see you all later. Take care. Be safe.